Let me just reiterate that plug for what we're doing. We're playing Old School Essentials in the Dolmenwood setting, which is in development by Necrotic Gnome, and they do have a Patreon that you should definitely check out. If at any point when we're playing you think this content looks interesting, you can support the project over at the Necrotic Gnome Patreon. I'm putting that here in our Twitch chat. We'll make sure to have that on the bio or the video description on YouTube. But it's a limited time thing. They're going to close the Patreon at the end of September, and the reason for that is because they're gearing up to actually publish the content, and so they want to make sure that they've got it locked so that they have everyone that's supporting is in the credits, and there's just needs to be a cutoff for that. So if you want to get in on it, get the updates as the project progresses, be sure to go and check them out and make that happen. So my name's Alex. I will be the game master for this campaign, and I am joined here by a number of the 20 Sides regulars. We've got Winston, Issac, Moreen, Ryan, and Chris all joining me here. And so today what we're doing was we're just really doing a session 0. We haven't talked too much about we've got a group going that we've been doing some character creation and such, but the typical kind of session 0 topics we haven't really delved too much into. So we're going to do some housekeeping here today. You'll get to see us talk about boring things like the scheduling and all that kind of stuff that you should do if you're going to run a session 0. Like hopefully you do that. We're going to talk about, like, player safety, topics that we're cool with, not cool with, and then we're going to get into talking about character development things and really just kind of kick off our campaign. Hopefully we'll have a little time here at the end to do some gameplay. So I guess a good place for us to start, I know all of you. I don't know how well all of you know each other, players, but our audience maybe doesn't know all of us. So we're just going to do maybe a little bit of like introductions about who we are and talk a little bit maybe about what we enjoy about tabletop games. This will give us kind of a sense of like what we're all looking to get out of this campaign. And so I guess the questions I have laid out here is just, general introduction. Tell us, I guess, maybe a little bit about your gaming background, and tell us maybe what you love about tabletop games. What are the things that you enjoy the most about playing? And so I guess I'll start. And so my name's Alex. For those of you out there, I have been running 20 Sides now, created it about 5 years ago. And so, yeah, I think I've been playing tabletop games probably. I mean, I've had some experiences when I was a child, apparently. I had a game or two with my father when I was really young, but then really didn't start playing D&D until it was 3rd edition when I was in high school. Dabbled a bit. I think people think that I've been playing D&D all my life, but I didn't start really playing D&D until I was in grad school, which was maybe in like 2013, 2014 or so. So it hasn't been like too long. But the things that I really enjoy about tabletop games are, I think for me, it's like the role play. I like character development. So if I'm playing in a campaign, I like it when myself or others in the group create characters that I like flawed characters that sort of work through their problems or grow and develop in that way. And so that's one of the things I really enjoy about tabletop. And I also enjoy the exploration side of the game. And so that's probably reflected a little bit in how I've set this one up, where I'm intentionally making you not natives of Dolmenwood so that it'll force a sense of like newness and discovery and wonder about it and such. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me. We'll just go around the horn here a bit. Why don't we go first here to Winston?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Winston. And I guess I'll, give a bit of background on my gaming experience. I feel pretty comfortable. I'm probably the newest D&D person, tabletop person in the crew. I started playing, I want to say 3 years ago, but I think that's actually more like 4 maybe now.
Five.
Um, God, is it really? I don't even want to think about that. I feel like COVID has destroyed my ability of like relative time.
Oh yeah.
But I started playing, and basically, like, my background, I've always been into like video games, that kind of thing. I always thought tabletop role playing games were actually objectively stupid. Like, I was one of those guys. I was like, why does anyone do that when they can just play Final Fantasy and like see their guy on the screen? And so because I didn't understand it, and like I had a couple of attempts and didn't really get it. And then I just started getting more curious about it. And I'll be honest, I was actually one of those guys who's like, I heard about Critical Role because of the computer game Pillars of Eternity 2. And I was like, what is this? People watch D&D on Twitch? That's ridiculous. And so I started watching and I was like, oh, it's about characters, it's about story, it's about telling a collaborative story. And I just got really interested. And I played a little with my kids, but really my first time truly getting into it was on the channel. Alex let me play in a community campaign in the early days when you could do anything you wanted, include like resurrect people with like good dice rolls, or bad dice rolls. So we we had some strange times in the first community game, but it was fun. And and I'm with Alex. Like, to me, the thing I like the most about tabletop role playing games, so I mentioned it, I'm a character junkie. And like what I mean by that is, like, every time I play a video game, every time I watch a movie or read a book, I get into it for the characters, their journey, their personality. Like, I'm the kind of guy, most of us probably are, that I'll sit on the character creation screen for like Dragon Age Origins and just like fantasize about my character and their background. And so it didn't really dawn on me until I started playing that's what tabletop role playing games can really be, is like these characters telling these stories. So I really like that part a lot. To Alex's point, I like flawed characters. I think I have a slightly unearned reputation of always playing evil characters. I feel like sometimes do. But I enjoy characters that are like morally complicated, and I think it just is interesting. And I think I like the soup that you get with all the other characters. So I love it when there's someone who's willing to be like the tried and true, truly good person, because then I can be like the gray person that kind of balances out, and that I enjoy that a lot. So I not to say that's going to happen with this character. I actually think, spoiler, my character's going to be a little more likable than usual. But sorry, that came across the wrong way. But basically the idea is, like, I really enjoy that aspect, and I like the wonder, I like the exploration, I like the not knowing what's going to happen. I do like adventures, but I really like when it's just whatever's going to come out of the DM's head, is like whatever we are doing and kind of pulling on, we're kind of exploring. And then I will admit too, I like combat that's extremely scary. And I will say, like, I played a lot of DMs. I haven't played much with Casey on the channel, and I played with a lot, and everyone's been really great. Awesome DMs on the channel. But I specifically really like how Alex DMs the community campaign, because he's willing to kill you. And I'm kind of hoping that the OSC, that there's going to be a little bit of that, like, we probably will die, we may die, and that threat just really creates a lot of drama and some exciting, very memorable combats. And so, anyways, that's kind of my take on it.
You're in the right place.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yay.
Let's pass it on over to Isaac.
Hi, I'm Isaac, and yeah, definitely about that death situation. I've had a little experience with playing with Alex at a con, and it was like, I'm not gonna, no spoilers, right? But maybe don't be the one to open the door. Like, either way. Well, I got wow, like you said, pretty much, I could pretty much just kind of mirror and piggyback on what everyone's saying. It started now about 4 or 5 years. I know every time we do these introductions, it gets a little further back, right? It's crazy now. But yeah, started playing. And now that I think about it, like I was in like an improv group and whatnot. That really, drove me to like to play like RPG, tabletop RPGs and whatnot. Just that like improvisation and whatnot really kind of, it just it's something that I really enjoy. But yeah, I would sit like I'm playing Skyrim or something. You sit at the character screen and you're like, this is who they're going to be, and you always wanted that. And then you play it and you could do so much. And in your head, you're doing these mental gymnastics to get it so that they're doing this for some reason, but you never really got that like satisfaction of them actually doing it, right? And uh, playing D&D and any, tabletop RPG really kind of gives you that kind of satisfaction. I definitely uh, enjoy role playing. I really get into my character, and I enjoy um, experiencing that character with others. Telling that collaborative story is always something I enjoy. Seeing how, like you were talking about, like that soup, right? How another character could really shape what your character does. They have big impact, especially on a long like campaign. That's that slow burn that's so beautiful. Where if you had it like the party makeup, if it was something different, your character might have been something totally different. But just everyone kind of just you know uh just having these factors that really uh build what a character is. I really enjoy that. Being able to go back and see those milestones, about how things change and how your character changed because of it. Combat. I I enjoy combat, but I think I do enjoy like the RP aspect more. I'm really excited to explore, and I'm really excited. I don't know how far how far we're gonna get into it, but you know, seeing how many torches I have, like seeing if my water skin broke, like stuff like that. I'm interested and I'm excited to do that. So I'm ready for the slow burn. I'm ready for the slow burn. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. That's an aspect of the game. Even when I played basic expert rules, I feel like too often we were tempted to just hand wave that, and it's such a big part of the game that I'm kind of looking forward to like making sure that okay, like yeah, we need to keep accurate records of these things because that survival piece it could really become a story if you don't have the thing that you need and you're out in the woods and what do? We're out of food. Like okay, now we gotta there's all of that kind of stuff. There's a little bit of a newness to coming into OSC because it emphasizes some things that we don't do in 5e. So awesome. Thanks, Isaac. Let's next let's go over to Moreen.
Okay, hi. I'm Maureen Carvan, and I have probably the longest time history, maybe, of people who've had starts and stops with D&D. I started my very first D&D experience in 1978, 79. I was an undergrad. Almost done with my undergrad. I walked into this student-run game. I wanted to be an elf. I spent hours creating this elf character. She died on the second roll. And so um, that gives you an idea of how intense the old school essential game can be. I I kind of got irritated after a while, and I'm putting this out there. Um, it was difficult being a woman in the 70s, walking into that environment and actually trying to play this game. I was the only one. I lasted probably 3 months, and I finally gave up because the dungeon master at the time would be somebody that I would probably not want to socialize with for a long time. However, I loved the whole aspect of the role play. I read Tolkien when I was 12, and so for me that was, part of it. I'm introverted. Um, I have a hard time when I meet people for the first time feeling actually socially comfortable. And so the role playing aspect of the game really helps me to sort of relax into not only the character, but aspects of myself that I sometimes don't just let out into the world. As anybody who's gone out with me at any point in time in this group will know, I'm not nearly as calm and peaceful as I might seem. And so all of those things come out come out in my character, my characters. I really put a lot of thought. The role-playing aspect of the game, as you can tell, is why I continue to do it. Every single campaign has its own taste, flavor. It's like all these different deep relationships and experiences that become true lifelong relationships. I got back into it really in this way and got interested in 20 sides before I knew that it was 20 sides because I was doing tabletop gaming with Alex. We met through work. We had a whole group of people who said after, I know it's cliche, after Stranger Things sort of like brought everybody's attention, like, God, we used to do this. Why don't we go ahead and pull together and do this? And Alex says, okay. And then Paul Creco said, okay. And so we had this massive campaign, lasted 3.5 years. All of us still have little tokens and things from the games. Our characters, in some cases, are actually murals on our walls, not mine, but, and those characters are still part of who we are. My characters, I have to work hard sometimes to really not let my own desire. I have a good, good chaotic good streak, and sometimes that's not what's needed. I have a hard time sometimes tamping that down. So this time, um, Wilson, I am going to try and play somebody who's a lot more ambiguous than I normally do and really try to keep that character from veering over to the light. Like, no, stay over here. So that's where I'm going with this character. All of my characters tend to be contrary, a little bit grumpy. I don't know why. And and almost always there'll be some slight tension between my character and another character in the game. We almost always end up having, again, real, really good, um, really good relationships. And I think that grumpiness does actually help shape some of the interactions in some very interesting ways. Community campaign, oh my God, it's so amazing because you can go in there and come out and go in there and come out, and your character can be slightly different every time. Um, and I've kept some of my community. I've kept all of them. Um, I don't. Okay, so I do and don't like combat. I'm a very strategic person. And so I try to bring that into combat. That's not necessarily the best thing to do in D&D, actually. I have to remind myself, run. And I get very upset if something that I do kills somebody. I'm much less much less worried about killing myself than I am about killing somebody else. And I have been known to burst into real tears, to actually feel like go around for days being depressed because of something that happened or being elated because of something that happened in the game. So I really, really get it deeply into it. I've played pretty much everybody except for one person. I'm not sure unless it's been in a community campaign that's in this group, and I cannot wait to really have an extended experience of playing under these rules again, and maybe not dying the first time I go out.
Awesome. Thanks, Moreen. And yeah, I think you've got some people in the chat that are clapping back at the idea of, yes, it was difficult back once upon a time. Probably still is in certain gaming contexts too, but hopefully the environment's changed a bit, being
Oh,
more inclusive and welcoming and such. So yeah, let's
well,
move. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm just gonna put this out there. I'm female. I'm not exactly young. And so far I've never felt anything other than warmth and welcome and real camaraderie and true friendship from everybody in this group.
That's awesome. Let's move next over to, let's go over to Ryan next.
Hey guys, I'm Ryan Garthok, and Yeah, this is kind of cool. Like just hearing everybody's kind of stories and why they're into D&D and stuff. It's like it's just another reason to love you guys even more. You know what I mean? Like it's like, oh, I feel so the same way as all these people that I've grown to enjoy playing with. Um, yeah, I mean D&D scratches so many itches for me. One is like the creative problem solving thing, like group problem solving, navigating groups, human relationships, all that fun stuff, getting to do it in like this fantasy fun time context instead of like at work or with like actual like important things and things in your life. It's like, oh wow, I can all these things I have to do in real life that are frustrating, I can do in this fantasy world that's actually fun. Wow. I think another thing is like, in my life, in my real life or whatever outside of D&D, I'm like a musician, and one of the things that I like about the D&D thing is it very much when it's going well and the way it's gone with a lot of the people in this gaming group, it really feels like a jam. It really feels like a jam session. You get in this flow state. Everybody's playing off each other. Everybody's playing their characters, and yeah, it's like playing in a band. You get that jam going, and there's nothing like it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of getting into that flow state and jamming with all of you guys again. Here.
Same here.
I like that analogy. I think that's a really good way of putting it.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Let's go next over to Chris.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Johnson. Started playing Dungeons and Dragons. I 3 weeks ago celebrated my 50th birthday, and I began when I was 11. So 39 years, sixth grade. Uh, had the situation where at that time you had the stigma of the game. So, you'd go look at the books in the back of Walden books and make sure that nobody from school was looking at you and stuff like that. So you'd hide back there and pilfer through the books. But the first game I ever played with a friend of mine, it was Tunnels and Trolls. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but that was actually my first RPG experience, and switched to got my red box at the half price store, 1983, and pretty much played every iteration. I didn't really play too much in, uh, not a lot of third edition. It was mainly red box, blue box, then of course advanced Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. But and then I played a little bit of fourth, and then kind of got back in fifth. But back in the day, we didn't really have video games. And I think first iteration of Atari I had. So as far as video games, I've never been too much of a video game player. Uh, it's been interesting with because I pretty much was strictly in person, but COVID situation and all that, it was really kind of the first time I ever did any online gaming. And I think it's probably, I found 20 sides. I believe it was on YouTube when I had kind of Googled Temple of Elemental Evil and saw that you guys were in the midst of your community play. And I was like, maybe I'll go out and check that out, and signed up and was very much welcomed by everybody. And it was a absolute ball. That particular adventure was one of my favorites of all time. Growing up playing that when I was a kid. But as far as D&D, I like the character development, uh, character creation. The kind of play that I guess that I'm used to with one of my long-standing in-person DMs that I started playing with him, I suppose, maybe 2001. When we would do character creation, it would be like a 10-hour situation with you and the DM where you would literally figure out all of your backstory list of contacts that just, the world immersive, where you kind of just got the sense where, you knew what was down the street and all this kind of stuff, that it really allowed you to get into the game. But I always like the lower level play because there is the sense of danger. Once you get up to 18th level, I mean, what's going to hurt you other than numerous dragons or gods and
Yeah,
stuff
come
like
at me,
that? So
God.
that's right. That's right. So I very much like the you know the, that particular aspect. I really haven't. It's somewhat new, I guess, to me to not delve into the minutia of what you have on you and stuff like that. What your party is carrying on the cart and everything. Uh, you know, One of the DM that I play with, he's like, I need to know what you have, so when the looters come, they know what to take and put you in dire straits. So it kind of adds to the whole game that there's not only can monsters kill you, but empty belly can as well. So I'm used to actually being like the quartermaster. So depending on how much minutia we get into this, if anybody doesn't want to keep track of the party stuff, that I mean, I don't want to say do that for a living, but pretty much that tends to be my role in many of the games that I play in, because I'm kind of a spreadsheet dork and everything. I've got all kinds of stuff that I've got set up for weights and all kinds of stuff. So
Well, once the party inevitably buys a donkey and a cart, we know
That's
who's
right.
tracking what's on the cart.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm nominating
Um,
you for our quartermaster. Just
You're
so
the
you know.
quartermaster.
that
Yep,
is
you got
completely
it.
fine. Uh, but yeah, it's like I said, I'm at, I've had a wide range of genres: Call of Cthulhu, Star Wars, um, Star Frontiers was another one that I played back when I was a kid and stuff like that. That's kind of, I guess, that's a futuristic one or whatever. But I won't list off all those. But I think I've taken enough time. But yeah, 39 years of play, and I would hate to think of the number of hours. But but yeah, I'm very much looking forward to getting back into this, because at least this particular system. Because one thing that I've noticed looking through the books and everything, I mean, it's pretty much kind of a taking the red box, the expert box, maybe even the companions box, maybe not so much, but just kind of combining it down into one. That skimming through it, there was a lot of things that I remembered from a long time ago. So, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And probably a little bit off topic, but just something I was kind of thinking about as you were talking. You'd mentioned you found 20 sides because of the Temple of Elemental Evil. And it just sort of makes me think how special that module is, in that I think people that played it or were familiar with it from back in the day often will cite it as one of their favorites. And I'd never played it. I played a lot of old school modules, like Keep on the Borderlands has a place in my childhood nostalgia, and Lost City and some of these others, but that one I never did. And so when we had the opportunity to run it, I don't know if I had really the understood the reverence for the source material. And then when all these people like yourself, Ryan, I think you joined because of Temple, Gabe joined, like all these people joined 20 sides because of love of that module. And it sort of makes me feel like some of us that weren't familiar with it kind of got to have like this reverse kind of going back in time kind of experience, where we got to like kind of capture a nostalgia for something that was antiquated, but it was now in 5e. And so it's very, very special kind of thing that we were able to participate in and do, kind of thanks to Goodman Games for letting us do that and stream that content. So yeah, so anyway, that's who we are, and we're gonna get started with real exciting stuff. Let's talk about scheduling and how often we're gonna play and how long and such. So I'm kind of putting it out there. The length of the session that I am willing to do probably as a GM is 3 hours. And that's sort of like max time. I don't know if anyone wants to sound off on that, but I'm sort of thinking, Saturday morning for me, this is sort of my relax game a bit. Like this is, I'm really just kind of wanting to be a little self-indulgent and kind of go, we're not, I'm sure we're going to tell a good story and everything, but it's really about what we want to do as, we're streaming this and people are watching it, and that's great. But it's really more for me, for us to just enjoy a game together around a cup of coffee or whatever. So I don't want to go too hard on, or beer. Yeah, I'll probably at some point have one too. But yeah, so I don't want to lead us into the idea of we're gonna have these like big long sessions, because I don't think on a Saturday morning that's probably, we all got stuff to do probably in the afternoons and time to spend with family. But how does that sound good, the 3 hour format?
Sure.
3 hours
and-
sounds real
yeah.
good. Yeah.
And I mean, if there's a time or there's like this thing that we have planned, I'm good to go a little longer whenever, if need be. But yeah, 3 is fine. I'm
Yeah,
sure there'll be a day where we'll have something. But
to echo the point, I don't have a hard stop. I think 3 is a nice target, but if we're jamming and you feel comfortable jamming more, then we can. For me.
Yeah, I could see that happening, particularly if we get to a point where you find like a dungeon or something, and it's like we don't want to keep start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. We'd like to kind of have that as a continued session. We could plan for that, I think. I guess the other question I have is about frequency, because I tried to set this group up a number of months ago, and I think back then I was thinking we would do it once a month. Now I'm kind of wanting to maybe up that frequency if it's possible for the group. So I was sort of thinking here we would maybe get into like an every other week type situation, if that would work for people.
Yeah.
It would. One thing for me, Alex, today being different because we're looking at starting on the 17th. That is, I have my in-person game that I'm in starting at 2 on those Saturdays.
Okay.
I would have more of a hard stop about 1:15 probably at the latest. If it were to be the opposite Saturday, other than maybe I don't know, a show choir thing for my daughter or something like that that may interfere, that particular every other Saturday would work better for me.
Okay. So we just have to get on the right like kind of cycle.
Correct.
And we could straighten that out. But then if we did that every other week would be a good frequency.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. Then the other topic I wanted to bring up here was like how do we want to handle absences or cancellations. So I will put it out there that I believe that this format of gaming makes it so if somebody does have to cancel or be absent, it's like not as big of a deal as it would be, because we're hex crawling, it's not necessarily like a plot driven thing, right? There's not literally like plot points that you're going to miss if you miss a session. It's more you missed what that group was doing for the day. So I feel like it's not as imperative. Like you don't miss out as much. Like you miss out on the experience, but you don't miss out on, I'm totally lost as to like what's going on in this game now because I didn't have the monologue from Strahd last session or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm fine. I think if like someone's absent, like if there's one person absent, I would say I'm good with this continuing. How does everyone else feel?
I'm 100% down with that.
Yep.
I think one thing that's nice about this game, I'm actually excited about, is that there's a lot of like long-term activities. So I think unless we stop in the middle of a dungeon, that's going to be totally doable. So maybe context-based. If we are in the middle of the dungeon, maybe we try to work around it. But I think otherwise, like I know for my character, I've already got plans for like things I'm going to be doing in the background. Like studying, researching, looking for more spells. Like there's going to be plenty of stuff. So.
One thing that I would also say, with the complexity or lack thereof on any particular class or whatever, if somebody were gone and it was, in the middle of a dungeon or something, and we stopped, and it's not difficult for either the DM or somebody else to run that character, so it's not like they're not there, but just kind of run them like an NPC for that particular week if it's necessary. But
If you kill my character, Chris, I will.
I'm okay with it.
I'll actually,
Yeah,
yeah, actually
just
be okay with
Put
it.
put me in the
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll come back with a moss dwarf or Grimmelkin.
That sounds good.
I'm coming back with a wood grew if you kill my character. Just letting you know. So get ready.
Little bat boy.
Little bat
There-
boy, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that in the past when these situations have come up, that there's always this opportunity, I think, to get together with one or another of us and sort of say, okay, I can't make it. Here's kind of what I'd hope we could do and sort of negotiate. And most of that negotiation ends up happening with Alex, and there's always an interesting twist. Notice I didn't say an evil twist, just an interesting twist that tends to get added. So I think that's really good.
I think if there's two people absent, then we probably just have to evaluate what was the group going to do in that session, because a 3-person group in a village or a town situation, maybe no big deal. But if you're out where we're going to set out into the woods, maybe we don't want to go without our hunter or our friar, that they've got some skills that we would really like to have if we're going to go out in the wilderness. So we can kind of play it by ear if we have more than one person absent at a time. But I think that all sounds good. Another thing I wanted to bring up is just something I'd like to start doing. Maybe it's not just in this game. Maybe it would be something to do in other 20 sides games. But it's something that I was introduced to by playing with Pete Petruccia from Imagining Games, who has been on the channel to plug some of the cool Kickstarters and games that he designs. But he does this thing at the end of his tabletop games called Gratitude, where you just kind of slow down. Because usually when we stop our games, we kind of just stop. We say, okay, that's it. Goodbye. And I think it'd be cool, especially in this being more maybe a relaxed game, for us to kind of slow down the stopping point and maybe take a moment to maybe decompress, chat about the session a little bit, but then just take a moment for each of us to kind of go around and express to somebody in the group, this is I'm thankful for you for this is how you made this session awesome. And I really appreciated when you did that cool thing, or you included my character in the plan that you were concocting, or whatever the case might be. So I guess the reason I'm expressing this now is because I will have the intention of doing something, but I don't write it down or I don't put it into my agenda, and then I forget to do it. So I'm saying it more so remind me that I would like to be doing this at the end of our sessions.
We'll have to set up some kind of Beastie Boys gratitude
Yeah.
trigger in the chat.
Got it.
And that's right.
All right. Isaac, draft the email then to
Oh,
the
boy.
BC Boys,
You got
please,
it.
so we can get
I
that.
gotcha. Let me get back into my Outlook.
Just copy and paste the one from Electric 6 someday. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about some maybe table expectations kinds of things. I don't know if that's really the right word. Maybe it's more like rules and those kinds of things. So I will be very clear with you all that at once upon a time I did run Basic Expert as sort of my preferred rule set, but that was 6 years ago. So I am extremely rusty on these rules. I haven't really played Old School Essentials outside of one game that me and Isaac played at Gamehole Con last year. So I guess I'm just saying this to be you're gonna have to be patient with me as I'm fiddling through PDFs, and I've tried to I'm not really a super organized person, and so I set up a OneNote to try to get myself some semblance of structure and control, but we'll see how it goes. But the other thing I'm gonna say is I don't want to be fiddling around with trying to get the exact ruling on things right necessarily in the middle of a session. So I'm going to be calling a lot of audibles, and I'll probably totally screw up multiple times, but I'm putting this out there to say, like, I might call an audible in the session, but I will do everything after the session to, like, review what was my calling, and I'll make a process for whatever the thing was so that it's consistent throughout going forward. A few of the homebrew rules that we will be using that are not printed necessarily in the Old School Essentials rulebook are I'm altering. I think there's a 2-weapon fighting thing in the book that you could do, but uh-oh. Sorry, Moreen. I put a Z on your name so that my
I'm so sorry. I
no,
thought I
that's
did
okay.
that.
I'm
I was
was
just
like,
wondering
how'd
what
that
it was.
happen?
That's
Yeah.
a clever
Uh-huh.
trick, though.
I am so
switch
sorry.
you back real
Yeah,
quick.
just
We'll
back
switch
there.
it. We'll
I'm
switch it
seeing
after the session.
Okay.
So there's like a 2-weapon fighting thing in the book, but we're gonna scrap that and say if you're 2-weapon fighting, you can do that if your class has a strength or dex as a prime requisite. You can attack with 2 weapons. The offhand weapon that you have has to have the light trait. And what this is going to do, we're going to throw a 5e mechanic in here that allows you to make your attack at advantage. To roll the 2d20s, you'll take the higher result. Otherwise, we're dealing with, okay, you get to make 2 attacks, and the first one has a -4, and the other one has a -2. Like, let's get rid of that. Let's just make it 1 attack. It's at advantage. It gives you a higher chance to hit, and you're forfeiting, like a shield, basically. Which brings us to talking about shields. In the book, a shield grants a +1 bonus. We're upping that. A shield will give you a +2 bonus. And then the other thing about shields that we're going to use is that if you are ever hit by an attack, and that attack's damage would reduce you to 0, or it doesn't have to be reduced to 0, just like, oh, it's 8 hit points coming my way. I don't really want to take 8 hit points of damage right now. You can forfeit the shield. You can allow the blow to be absorbed completely by the shield. The shield is then destroyed, but you don't take any damage. In the case that you have a shield that has a magical bonus, you can do the same mechanic up to the number of times of the bonus. So like if it's a +1 shield, the shield won't be destroyed. It's just you get to use that thing once. If it's got a +2 bonus, you could do that 2 times per day. The other thing, so the goal of all this is because, yeah, OSC by default can be extremely lethal and extremely deadly. And in the interest of, we want to have something of some character development. You have to survive a number of sessions for that to happen, right? We're trying to include some rules that might give you a better chance of getting out of a sticky situation if it should happen. So the other thing that we're going to be doing is, by default, OSC rules, if you drop to 0 hit points, you're dead. There's no saving throws. There's no resuscitating anybody, nothing like that. So we're going to be using these death and dismemberment rules that I found, where dropping to 0 doesn't necessarily mean instant death, but it might add some complexity to, you might have some lingering injuries. You might have a permanent injury of some sort. And so we'll play around with that, see how we like it. And if at some point we decide it's too much and we don't like it, we can scrap it and find something else.
Merely a flesh wound.
Yeah. And the other change at the start that I'm going to be making is that all classes can use all weapons, with the exceptions being that the Friar and Cleric still can only use blunt weapons, and the Knight can still only use melee weapons. But I don't like the idea that the wizard has to sit there with a dagger only. I feel like a wizard should be able to use a longsword, and that'd be fine, so we can have our Gandalf wizard, using his enchanted sword or whatever if he's in a tight spot. Those rules all seem cool, or those of you that are familiar with OSC, do you have any like homebrew rules that you'd really like to see included? I pass this to the chat too. If someone out there in the chat knows of some rule that you guys use at your table that you'd like to see us employ, feel free to let us know.
One question I guess that I would have is, I mean, for the most part, it's the OSC rules, but it's like the advanced ones. I mean, you're incorporating the advanced ones in there as well. And
Yeah.
stuff, right? Okay. All right.
Just a comment, I guess, about RP. I always forget to say this at the beginning of my campaigns, but I think it's important to say is that when I think of RP, it doesn't necessarily mean voice acting. And so I put that out there that nobody should ever have to feel like they have to create a unique voice for their character to be able to be a good RP or anything like that. So sometimes the more impactful thing is to describe the psychology of your character in a situation, or describe their intent, or just their nonverbals sometimes. And so I guess I want to just put that out there as like encouragement that, don't feel constricted to like how you interact because you don't have that character voice to go along with things. And that's going to go for me too, because there's probably going to be times there's so many different NPCs and such in this campaign that I'm probably unlikely to find a unique voice for every single one of them, and will be kind of fluctuating from first person voice acting, character interactions to let me give you a summary of what this person's going to tell you.
Okay, I just want to go on record that I demand voices for the Woodgrews and the Grimmelkins.
Okay.
And the Lost Dwarfs.
Oh, well,
So
I'll try to
be
get at
thinking.
least one of those in yet today if I can. Note taking. I'm really terrible when I'm playing games, tabletop games. I'm really terrible at taking notes. But in a game like this, it's probably imperative that we all try to do so to some degree. And you all might even want to designate somebody that's really good at it to be kind of like your official scribe, just because you're going to be traveling and exploring, and you might see something that today you do not want to deal with, but you might want to make a note of it because you want to come back to that hex later when you're more prepared to go exploring. And so I guess we could talk a little bit about how you want to handle that. Do you all want to maybe create some kind of a shared document or something where you dump your notes so that you all kind of can add collectively to something after the sessions, or you want to rely on one person?
Go ahead, Moreen.
I was going to say, maybe a combination of things. So one thing, we've got the discussion channel, and there's a lot of room in there to actually put some information in there and
That's
put
a
it
good
in. And
idea.
it actually allows you to speak it if you want to, so you have to write everything down. And then I do think, like I have 4 pages of notes right now, and I've got this tool that I can go ahead and turn it into a PDF and upload that. But I will say that I am distractible, so it would help a lot to have other people keeping track of this too. So
Yeah, I was just gonna say, a lot of times a collaborative effort. I mean, if anybody does take notes, everybody might hear one particular thing that is important to them, and somebody else it's not important to, and stuff like that. So having a collaboration after the fact of everybody's notes to kind of have it be organized into a particular place or a particular document or whatever, I don't think is a bad idea. But I mean, I tend to jot down little notes, assuming that while I'm playing and I'm writing like this, that I can read them later. But a lot of times, I think it's a good idea to have it be kind of collaborative.
I think that's my biggest problem is I take plenty of notes, but it's whether I or you could understand them later.
After, right? Yeah, me too. Definitely. I'm like, what the
Sometimes
hell
I'm
does
looking
this
at
mean?
notes from the
What
prior
the hell
session,
is it?
and I'm like,
Is
did I
is
just
this a
put
name?
Gabe? Gabe is is a meanie DM or something? Like, what is this? I can't read this.
This
You
is
know-
literally why I got this tool, is to be able to handle all of that stuff.
I
But
wonder.
no.
I wonder if there's like a Foundry extension that we could get where you could all like share like a Foundry thing. Because since we're already looking at
Ooh.
Foundry for the map, I'll look into that. But maybe it could be either that, or if nothing else, we've got our Google Drive. We
Google
could just
Drive.
have a Google document where you could dump notes after the session if you want to have like a compile everybody's thoughts or things that they picked up on.
Yeah, I'm a fan of a Google Doc for the
Yeah.
collaborative.
Me
And
too.
we could link it and pin it in the channel, and then that way it's like readily available.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of using the Discord discussion, so we could put it on the audience. Write some notes for us and dump them in there.
right.
That would be great.
Ooh.
Have a designated note taker in the audience. There we go.
Yeah,
They're forced to attend.
cool. Well, that sounds good. We'll kind of investigate that and come up with something that we want to use. So the other thing I was going to bring up is probably more so than other systems, accurate. We kind of talked about accurate character sheets, or accurate like kind of accounting of what you have and such is very important. I'm never going to like audit your character sheet in the moment or anything, but I will ask if you would all give me a copy of like your character sheet, at least as it is every level. Like probably every time you level up, I just want to have it so I have your character stats. But I guess what I'm asking for you to all do is just make sure that whatever you're using for your character sheet, that it includes tracking arrows, includes tracking your torches that you're using or your rations. We are going to use the simplified version of encumbrance, so I'm not going to ask you to calculate the weight of like all of your equipment. We're basically going to assume that your equipment is what it is, and then we're going to define your movement speed based on your armor. So whatever armor you're wearing kind of is where, if you're not wearing any armor, your base movement speed is 120 or whatever. And then if you're carrying treasure, though, treasure we will track. So in old school essentials, we don't track things by pounds. It's like you track things by coin. How many coins does it weigh? And so each character can carry up to 1,600 coins worth of treasure. That isn't necessarily literally coins. It could be, we've got this big portrait that we're lugging around, and the portrait is the equivalent to 500 coins. Does that make sense? It's a strange accounting method, but that's what it is.
Is that how experience works too? I forgot to ask about that.
Yes, and we'll get to that, and that'll probably be our next topic. But the other thing I wanted to say about treasure is that while I'm not tracking like the encumbrance of your equipment and everything, if you do want to carry a mass amount of coins, like you just killed the dragon and you're going to the dragon's, you're going to try to pull the hoard out, I'm going to ask that you have to have the containers to do so. So like you have, if you have a sack that can fit 50 coins, that's how much of the dragon's hoard you can take out. So that's where that's where our donkey and cart probably comes into play at some point, is that you find all this stuff and okay, we have to figure out a way to ferry it where we need to. Yes. So experience and leveling, how does that work in OSC? So the game design of OSC in old school D&D sort of assumes that you're out for treasure and that you're looking for treasure. And so that is how you level up primarily. Every gold piece that you find in the world. Now, I'm going to put it's not that you found it, it's that you found it and brought it back to a safe place or a town, or you secured it, right? Whenever
What if
you
we eat it immediately? Can we just like eat the coins and gain power?
Yeah, we never, like, we don't get to level up.
these are chocolate
like-
coins. No, yeah, every experience point, or every coin equates to an experience point that is then divided 5 ways amongst the 5 of you, unless, if you got hirelings and such, it could be divided further. But So that is a big way that experience points come. You know, killing monsters and such does give you experience points, but a lot of times it's maybe not worth the risk of fighting that den of goblins. Maybe it sort of depends. Do they have treasure? Is probably the bigger point. Or I'm going to add in here though, like I will give you pots of EXP for doing cool things or taking on quests. Like if you take on a quest for somebody and you complete it, I will factor in an amount of experience that's probably anywhere from 1/20th of a level's worth of experience points to 1/10th of a level of experience points. It just sort of depends, but some kind of a bonus for doing a thing in addition to all the treasure and whatnot that you would have found along the way of completing the quest. If you all as a group decide we want to spell out a group goal that we're working towards. So for example, I think the easiest one is we've heard a rumor about this monster in the woods and we want to go and track it down, find it, and slay it. And it's like something that takes you, you know, a number of sessions to complete. I'll probably give you a bonus to experience points for naming the goal and completing it. So it could be a self-motivated thing amongst your group. Any questions about the like encumbrance or level up mechanics?
What if the goal is to gain experience points?
An infinite loop of
That's Bringo.
Yep.
Bringo.
You broke OSE. Reboot.
Look out, small towns of commoners.
Yeah.
Lay waste to the outs.
You all
To
were
the
worried
outskirts.
about the wrong thing this entire time. Which maybe that brings us to campaign tone. So, I guess a little bit of context of where I'm coming from as a GM, DM, whatever. So the last campaign that I ran was Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which was a lot of fun, and I think we told a really good story. And it was very lighthearted, at times extremely silly. But you know, it was sort of that type of game where I had a lot of comical characters and whatnot. And now my desire is to swing and do something that's sort of like the opposite. Like I need some contrast from where I just was. And so I'm hoping I would like to play this one out with at least a semi-serious tone where like your characters are all multi-dimensional and they're not maybe caricatures of something. Like they're developing and they're real life, they're real people that have goals and are trying to go somewhere. Which really means putting you all in the driver's seat for crafting whatever that narrative is. So my hope is that this campaign would be something where we've got some degree of politics in play with the different factions in the Dolmenwood. It has an element of high fantasy, some drama, kind of that grit of survival. Not to say that there won't be some like silly fun here and there. I mean, we've got cat people that exist in the world, and the wood grews, right? Like there are some creatures that have sort of a little bit of whimsy to them, but I don't want to play them necessarily as. I think you kind of get what I'm saying a little bit, but let me hear from you all, and what are you all wanting as far as tone, and what things do you want to see in the campaign?
That works for me a lot because, like you, I'd like to explore a gritty experience that's nuanced. And I've been doing that for 3 years, but this is time to do it again.
Yeah, I like having fun a lot, obviously. And I will say, like, in one-shots and in even the community campaign, it's fun having kind of, like, sillier type characters. I really enjoy that style of play, and I like that D&D or tabletop role-playing games is, like, a nice format for that. But I think for this, I was kind of thinking the same thing, Alex, where it's like, it'd be nice, because it's going to be deadly, I'm assuming. And because we're not like superheroes like you would in like a 5e setting, we're going to be like, I have one spell, and that's it, and I think it'll be kind of nice to have the tone sort of be like mysterious and sort of weighty and creepy and maybe scary a little without, and so then I think to that, like, I think we have to have fun with it, but I think that striking that balance of like not making too many you're not making too many one note characters, that kind of thing, which I will say this, I played with everyone in this group and I have no worries about that. So but yeah, I think it's worth stating.
Yeah, just not undercutting. Yeah, if there's weight to the situation, not undercutting it by just your character like not giving a shit when they would.
Yeah.
They would. If there's this thing that's there that's gonna harm them, like you definitely, react the way that they would react. Don't be the action hero. Like make it a little. It helps with the immersion, right? Like that's kind of what we want, right? So.
And don't play
Definitely.
a Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
Adam Sandler or
Adam
something like that.
I don't
You
know.
took the words
Adam
right out of
Sandler
my
could be
mouth.
appropriate.
Yeah.
I think
Man,
it's
How
kind of
about
cool.
a
I think the
settings?
difference between,
Did I just
like,
say that? I didn't mean that. I might. Yeah, we'll see. You haven't heard my voice yet, so.
That's right.
it's like the difference between, like, say, the 60s Batman series and Christopher Nolan's Batman, right? It's the same
Yes.
content. It's the same goofy characters, same goofy villains, but it's how you're kind of attacking it, right? And I think that the setting, reading a little bit of the Dolmenwood stuff from some Humble Bundles and stuff, that kind of fae, that high fantasy fae world really lends itself to that thing. Sort of presents itself as kind of whimsical, but it's actually like vicious and deadly. So
Mhm.
I think that there's, because of the high fantasy kind of aspect, there is sort of a whimsy to it, but I think it's more of like, you have to think of it more of like Pan's Labyrinth than yeah, something more lighthearted.
Yeah. Well, as I've been preparing for this, a lot of times in the 20 Sides Discord, we'll just be hanging out, kind of chit-chatting in our general 2 channel. And I'm sure that, as I'm reading, people have heard or could see I'm like concentrating on something and I'm like focused on it because I'm like, oh, wow. And then I'll give out like a little giggle because I'll be like, this hex, oh, that's funny. That would be so funny if that were to happen and this situation would happen. And then I keep reading and then I'm like, oh, that's not so funny. That's
Yeah.
not so cute. So there's a lot of that. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe if something is too cute, you should be like, run away.
Well, it would be frightening. Like,
Yeah.
this is obviously a trap. Baby Yoda, that can't be good.
That can't be good, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I just got out of a Curse of Strahd campaign, and I mean, it was a little bit more, out there, but definitely, yes, I'm looking forward to things that aren't as they appear.
Yeah, if we see cute animals having a tea party, nuke them.
Yep.
Just gonna color spray
Definitely.
and run.
Don't eat the food.
So another thing that I just thought about as we were talking about this, character death. So obviously, very real possibility, right? I guess my question here is, how do we want to handle that? Because there's so many different ways that we can handle a character dying, particularly when it's like in the midst of maybe a dungeon crawl, or it's, how do we reincorporate that player? I've got a number of thoughts. I got a number of ideas, but I guess I want to first pass it to you guys to see what you all think.
I mean, I'm a fan of getting the player back in as soon as possible. So, I don't, not in a way it's like someone opened the door in the dungeon, they're like, oh, hi, like there could be some delay. I think that makes it weighty. I think if it I guess I'll put it this way. I think if a player gets killed in a really like big emotional moment, we don't want a Grimalkin to like descend from the ceiling and be like, hello. I think there could be some weight to it. I will say, like, you killed me in a one shot recently, and then you just sort of like logically placed my character in the dungeon, and I hung out for like 30 minutes. that was perfect for me. I would love for that to be like the way it's handled. But if it's like my character we've been playing for like 6 months that gets killed, then maybe it's like, hey, I'm just gonna watch the rest of the session and then maybe come back next time. I think there could be a scale. Maybe we could feel it out at the moment.
Yeah.
The what I would say, well, I hadn't commented on the thing that you had said previously. I don't know if you've noticed this. I tend to not be too silly of a character when I play characters, so I don't have a problem, having it be a little more of a serious game. It's more of my preference of play style. But as a player, on the topic that we're on now, as a player, I wouldn't have a problem to maintain story to sit out half a session and even another session or whatever. I could still even show up and not be somebody. You could say, hey, be this NPC or something like that. Assign me an NPC, uh, or, some townsfolk or whatever, just kind of incorporate me, the player, into the thing rather than me bringing a player in until it fits story purpose. Because, yeah, you open the door in the dungeon and it's like, hi, I'm your new 4th level fighter. Hello, that, to me, that doesn't, it works against story than working towards it, because why would anybody trust that new 4th level fighter?
So
Especially when they're wood grew.
here's
I
what
like
I'm.
the NPC idea too, to say if we have some hirelings or something here, to say okay, you control them for a bit, or until such a time, that another character would come in or something. That sounds kind of good.
It sounds like you all are pretty flexible on what that is. Like we can kind of like if it's fine, I could even just stop play and we can like talk about how do we want this next part to go? Like, do you want adventurer to be 30 minutes out somewhere in this dungeon, right? Like there might be a situation where it's possible that there's another explorer out somewhere and they get incorporated, or we could even have maybe the character still sticks around for the rest of the session as a ghost and can kind of interact with things in like kind of their own little world, like seeing, you know what I mean? Like probably not hanging out like a force ghost right next to you talking to you, but like allow them to maybe do something sort of in isolation. It's kind of like those last moments of sticking around the material plane, like
I like that.
Just to extend the traumatic experience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
that's right.
well, yes, that's a huge part of it.
I think that adds to kind of the collaborative vein we're kind of trying to do with this campaign too, with kind of saying where do you want to take this, and where's the next session to go, what hex are we headed to next. I think that kind of stays in the spirit of that too, where we can say, okay, somebody passed away. Now, this is probably pretty heavy for the group. Like, let's talk about this. What do we want to happen? Where do we want this to go? I think that's a great way to handle it.
and I would think, given some of the characters that we have in the group and this religion of the one true God, like it might even become sort of an important thing, a quest, right? Like to put this person to rest like properly, like, and not hand wave it as, okay, we dug this hole over here because it was convenient, and then we did a little prayer and now it's good, like we're done, like
Just throw me in the hole.
Yep.
Does this body count as treasure?
You all
How many
gain 1,000
experience points we
coins.
get for our guys' coins?
Dig through pockets and find your little will.
So that brings us to like the will thing I wanted to talk about too, because there is this idea that your character can leave an inheritance to their next character or whatnot. Now, I don't know that we're going to play it like that way exactly, but I think it might be something to kind of think about going forward. Like if you create a character that is related to your previous character, has a connection to your previous character, we could maybe work with those mechanics a little bit to like give your next character that little boost in stuff to start out, so they're not just like a flat level 1 character starting out fresh while everyone else is wherever they're at.
Like that.
Let's see. Are there other like session 1 topics that you all want to talk about, like kind of logistics and such, before we maybe dig into story pieces?
I guess I had a mechanics question about a character. So, obviously, one of the cooler parts of OSC is that we all level different experience levels. So if we die as like a level 3 character, are you thinking we come in at level 1? Are you thinking there's like a half EXP kind of thing, or do you have any rules for that?
I don't. What are your preferences?
I don't know.
I'm always a fan of you come back 1 level lower than you were. Is how I've
Yeah.
generally done it,
Okay.
but
That's fair.
That's
only
the house rules I've always played with is either 1 level lower or half experience, or that people have done.
The other, I know Casey, the way he does it is that if you die, you come back. You start at level 1, but then every session you'll just level up until
auto
you get
level.
back. Yeah.
okay.
But I don't know if that would work as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe just one back.
I
would
probably won't want
be
to
best.
do that just because we are doing nuanced EXP progression where nobody's going to have the same EXP or the same benchmarks.
So I do think it's a good idea for 5e. But I will say, like, my only hesitation would come down to 1 level is that it might incentivize you to do cheap stuff. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think anyone would, but like, it'd be like the One Ring of Mordor, whatever the hell. Like, if I picked an elf coming down 1 level lower, like,
yeah,
I'd
I would
really.
have. I
Maybe,
don't know.
maybe we'll do
I
half
don't think that'd
EXP
be-
would be a good fix.
Yeah.
I feel like knowing the players in this game, like we would screw our characters more to get
That's
a good
probably true.
storyline out of it.
Yeah, more than doing that. Yeah, I don't think
than
that we
to
would
make
Right.
them
do
So
that.
maybe we
overpowered,
should.
you know.
That's
So
true.
maybe
That's a
we
good
should
point.
also make that a rule, though, that we can't out of all of our altruistic natures and fun for playing around, screw our characters too much.
Good
Because
rule
that
of thumb
makes
for the
no
players.
sense.
It's a party. It's a party, right? We want everyone to
Yeah,
win. So don't
exactly.
open the door when you know there's a bad monster behind it.
I
Exactly.
don't know if this was on the agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sure you.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, as far as the experience goes and where your character comes in, with it being the XP system that is here, I mean, if your characters are 4th level and you have a 1st level character come in, that character is going to probably make it to 4th level before anybody else makes it to 5th level. So you have, because it kind of exponentially grows or whatever. So me personally, I don't have a problem starting out a brand new fresh character. I mean, obviously, depending on how long this goes, if we're 8th level or something like that, they may not carry around, a 1st level, bring around a 1st level guy or something like that. But I think especially at the lower levels, I personally don't have a problem coming back in as 1st level, but
Okay.
I would leave that.
It sounds like we won't make a hard and fast rule right now because it might be kind of contextual in terms of like where is the rest of the group at the time. So we can make a judgment call on it if that should happen. When that should happen.
I'm totally down for that.
Yeah.
I guess what I was gonna ask, I maybe just change the topic a little bit. If we're all done with that, is that good? Are there going to be like XP things for the viewers, like on Twitch? Is that something that's happening? Are you doing?
Yes, I would say so. There could be re-rolls. I'm trying to think if any of them are problematic, and I don't think they are. Probably I'll say with re-rolls in OSC that you could use a re-roll on other rolls that you need to make. It doesn't have to be a D20. Like it could be a re-roll on your foraging check, or it could be a re-roll on your check to find the path again after you got lost. Like
Mhm.
like it could be anything.
And I would also throw out there, which I guess I don't know if that's on there, but in OSE, a +1 is very powerful. An advantage, I mean, that kind of works out to like a +3 ish. I mean, statistically wise, which is gigantic in OSE rules. So something to think about, maybe adding a +1 in there or something like that. An advantage to use on an attack roll or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything that grants advantage currently. I think it's just reroll. We used to have an advantage thing, but I think I took that out.
Yeah, and reroll is a little bit less statistically good because you can go lower.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's
you
true.
might be
Yeah.
converting
So-
your success into a failure.
Right.
Yeah,
I've definitely
yeah.
done that too.
100%.
Almost
yeah.
always, huh?
So, but I think Chris is a point too. Like, I mean, I will say this, and this is just a small thing, and I hate to be the party pooper on this, but if we end up getting like 30 rerolls, it starts to feel a little silly.
Mhm.
So, like, maybe like a maximum rerolls per session, or just like, let's see what happens. Because if people put like one reroll in, that's great. Feels like the gods are favoring you,
Mhm.
But if it's like every attack is a reroll, it starts to feel a little bit like,
Mhm.
Which is great for community campaign because like it's so scary. But
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were fighting demon lords, so
Mhm. I think the I feel like chat, like I've seen that they do a good job. They won't give it unless you need it sometimes. So
Mhm.
that's fair. That's fair.
Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll be
they don't
stingy
want the,
too. So
yeah, sometimes they just want to see you burn.
It's all about the story, just like us. Everybody watching is all about the story and the drama.
Yeah. And I will say that like another party pooping opinion is let's not carry things over from session to session. So like just start over with rerolls if that's cool.
Oh yeah, I don't
Yeah.
carry over, so
Yeah, I know you don't for community, but like I think there's a temptation with campaign because it's more cohesive. But
Mhm. Yeah, even then, I never let those witchlight people
okay, cool,
carry
Good
their
Flashlight
rolls,
people. So
good deal.
sweet.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it.
and they needed it. Oh my god, they needed it.
It's bad.
It was so
It
bad.
was like average roll was like 9 that entire.
Oh man.
Not like how we rolled for our ability scores for this game.
I know, man.
Right.
We are. I can't wait till we all die and we roll like straight 8s for our next character.
Yeah.
Right.
I think with that we're gonna get started here. So, our campaign, your characters, the 5 characters here are starting out prisoners. You all live within, I would say, a political context that is very uncertain right now. And so you've all grown up and lived under the reign of the Lumoran Empire, which is pretty much dominates the continent of Isan, where you live, and has been that way for centuries. Has been the unifying political force of the realm, and it is very much a empire that has a symbiotic relationship with the church. Both the religion and the politics reinforce and affirm the other's legitimacy. And so the Lumoran Empire names the Dicleritic Church, which gets its name from the mountain where the holy texts of the church come from. Now, many people just refer to the church as the Cleritic Church, and it is very much it's a monotheistic religion with a god that is a kind of Old Testament vengeful. I mean, we've just been playing Temple of Elemental Evil, pretty similar to the Saint Cuthbert, like kind of righteous, smite evil, but also has a side of it that is about kind of affirming compassion in humanity and such. So the church is sanctioned by the empire, and in return, the church kind of puts its stamp of approval on their ability to rule and gives the emperor kind of that is the chosen family, the chosen line of the one true God to carry humanity forward. But in recent times, the Lumoran Empire has fallen into a state of chaos a bit, as the current emperor does not have an heir. And so the bloodline kind of lies with 4 of his nephews. And a number of years ago, maybe about a decade or so before our campaign starts, the emperor had had a stroke and fallen into a coma. And so there was a period of time where these 4 nephews were carving out their pieces of the empire where their influences, and they went to war with one another. And so this has really carved out, it fractured the national identity of the empire. And so people in different communities, different cities, different nobles threw in their lot with one of these 4 brothers, and it has caused turmoil throughout the empire, and things haven't really gotten better since the emperor awoke maybe 7 years ago. Enough damage had been done during that period of time where this war happened that it never really healed. And in that time, there have been strange things that have happened, and pretty much everywhere throughout the empire is kind of going through different stages of almost like police state kind of mentality, and that could explain some of the crackdown that has happened to the 5 of you. Even if you did do crimes of some sort, the penalty of being thrown in prison and potentially shipped off to a labor camp might not be in prior times. Your crimes may not have lived up to that type of penalty. And so people are being like taken off the street for really no reason. The church is getting involved in things that it normally wouldn't have, because another aspect of this civil war that happened was some of these nephews were showing signs that they were putting their lot in. They might change like the official religion of the empire, and so the cleric church is uneasy as well, and making some strange moves and calling for crusades into foreign lands and such. And so all of this to say, the point here is where you're coming from is very chaotic and has sort of this Game of Thrones. You're really not sure who's going to come out on top, and everybody is acting in dramatic manners, those political actors and the nobility. So where we're starting, though, your characters have been caught up incidentally in some of this chaos and been landed in prison. Not to the point that you've been shipped off to a workers' camp, but that would be your ultimate fate if you were to stay in prison for too long. You'd be shipped off to a coal mine or an iron mine, somewhere to produce free labor for the empire and continue its work to try to remain the sole legitimate political power within the continent. But your characters, and we'll get to it, we'll explain how your characters know this figure, but your characters through imprisonment somehow came to have a relationship, or at least earn the trust of a former knight who's also prisoner, and his name is Sir Silas de Santos, although the sir, I guess, is dropped. He will correct you if you ever try to refer to him as sir. He will remind you that he has lost that honor. But he's an older gentleman. He's probably in his mid-60s or so. He still seems quite healthy. He's able to kind of hustle and work in the small jobs that he's had within the prison. But somehow, one way or another, you all earned his trust. And as fate would have it, he has come upon and been offered by the crown a opportunity for amnesty to clear his name and earn his freedom back. the cleric, sorry, not the cleric church, but the there's another interest group within the empire, and that would be the Imperial Order of Magists, which is a kind of a formal collection of wizards and scholars who are sanctioned by the Empire to conduct research and learn more about the arcane arts. Sort of the cleric church, not super excited about this turn of events that happened during a period of enlightenment some hundreds of years ago, but the emperor at that time was keenly interested in learning more about the arcane arts, and the church, in an effort to not be sidelined or have their power diminished, kind of worked out a compromise where they would put their stamp of approval on the Order of Magists if they could have some stipulations about what types of magic were allowed, and to get a pledge from the emperor that this order, their mission statement, their whole reason for existence was to learn about the arcane arts, to do good and do right by the church and by the god. And so that is what their deal is. So anyway, the Imperial Order of Magists came to the prison, and they found Sir DeSantos, who has a reputation and connections, whatever the case might be, but they had a mission for him. And it would seem that one of their members has gone missing and has apparently stolen some secrets or done something. The ask from the Imperial Order is a little bit absent of some details. They're not really willing to share what this person did or what they stole, but what they do share is her name and where they believe that she has ran off to. And so the person that is being sought is a magist. They call her a prismist, meaning that she studies magical gemstones and kind of the connection between the earth and ley lines and arcane energies is sort of what she studied. And so her name is Marjoram Gryver, and she was rank of second order within the Imperial Magists. And the only thing that they are willing to share really is that she stole a crystal that is the property of the order, and they believe that she has fled the capital city and has gone out to the remote region of the Empire called Dolmenwood. So the crown extended this offer to Sir Silas that he is to either kill her and return the gemstone, or they will provide a bigger reward if she is able to be captured alive and brought back. And with this, would receive exoneration for his crimes and be free once more. Sir Silas, due to the connection that you all have with him, insisted that the five of you accompany him on this mission, that he cannot do it alone as a mere knight. He would need a crew to be able to have the power to deal with a wizard. And so he put his neck out, he put his deal in jeopardy in order to ensure that the five of you would go along with him. And the Magists and the Crown accepted that offer with the caveat that he is sort of your custodian. And so you're being allowed to go along with him. You five are his wards, I guess. Like, if one of you steps out, he's equally guilty and responsible for what your actions are. And so there's a little bit of a power dynamic between you and him in that regard. He's the one that's carrying your coin and has the power of the purse. He's the one that has arranged a lot of the logistics and such. And so you have been traveling with him now for some time. You have your gear that you purchased and whatnot, but any coinage that you have, he's hanging on to it. And so where we start here, it's been several weeks that you've been traveling by canoe up the River Hameth.
Alex, I do have a question.
Sure.
Dolmenwood is part of the Empire.
Correct.
Is it one of the areas that was carved out by one of the nephews?
It is not. It is not.
It is not.
So
Okay.
its relationship, you could almost think of it kind of like it's more of a vassal state than a part of the Empire proper, just because it's so remote. It would be difficult for any standing army to get there, just because it's so far away, and it's sort of geographically located in a place that would be difficult to move in and out of, and it's so far removed that it's just strategically not in a place that matters to the Empire much. Its relationship to the Empire seems to be, from what your understanding is it exports lumber and some kind of luxury goods like alcohols, and particularly there are some spirits from a village called Prigmort that you've heard of. So those seem to be the things that primarily lumber is its main export, and as long as that continues to flow and come down the river and eventually make its way to the Empire, nobody bats an eye or really cares what their affairs are up there. The legal authority, as far as you know or understand, in Dolmenwood is the Duchy of Brackenwold. And so the Duke of Brackenwold is a part of the nobility structure of the Empire, but his name doesn't really get referenced much because his influence doesn't extend beyond the Dolmenwood. And so other questions that you all have about, like, kind of where you're coming from, context.
I would imagine the gemstone that Marjoram took, that we have a full deep briefing on what it looks like, all that type of stuff, so we fully kind of know what we're looking for, type of deal.
Yeah, what they describe to you isn't necessarily all that notable. Like they tell you it's like this violet, kind of elongated, like gemstone. They give you like a kind of like the rough description of size and whatnot, but nothing about like why is it important that they get it back. They'll tell you like you're not allowed to know that. You don't need to know it. What you need to know is what she looks like. She's older woman, late 50s.
And we can assume she's a somewhat powerful magist.
They would tell you that much of her study was primarily academic, like when it comes down to, was she like a war mage or anything like that? No, she primarily was someone that studied things and did a lot of scholarly research, but wasn't somebody that was out in the field like. So she'd probably be slippery in terms of like she has some spellcasting ability, and she, if you're not careful, maybe could put a charm on you or something like that. But they give you kind of a rundown of her talents in that way.
Okay. And do we have all of our other equipment at the moment, like weapons and gear?
Yep. They did anything that you kind of came into prison with, they relinquished to you after the fact, although for you and your spell book has definitely been poured over, and there is a arcane mark on the pages of your spell book, and it is the symbol of the Cleritic Church, which is known as the oraculary, and so it has been pressed into each of those pages, and so you know that that is sort of the expectation if you were ever to like add a new spell to your spell book, you are supposed to take it to a member of the cleric church to get it approved.
They forced it on me. Okay.
It's a
Do
probably.
I have my gym?
You have your quartz. Yep.
Mhm.
I would say it's unclear to you how much those rules of the Empire extended to Dolmenwood. So you don't know. Like, is that an expectation? But in the Empire, if you were to be caught with your spell book and not have it be sanctioned like that, like, you'd be right back in the same situation that you were. Like, it's cause for imprisonment, or if they believe that it's not just like that you were unlicensed, but you were actually actively doing something treasonous, like, it could be execution. So, but yeah, so you the five of you plus Sir Silas, you have 3 canoes that that's how you're going up the river, and you're kind of going against the flow of the river. And so the days are long and laborious. Like, at the end of the day, you're ready to pull your canoes off to the side and get a good night's rest and whatnot. And that is where we're going to kind of begin. You've been traveling all day along this river, and the terrain that you've been traversing through at this point has been pretty flat, maybe at times kind of rolling hills, and you've probably been stopping from time to time. There's a lot of subsistence farmers out in this area, and so folk are relatively friendly. You're with somebody, and you would note that Sir Silas, he wields a sword that is very unique. It has a dark, it's a long sword, but it has sort of a dark blade, a dark iron that's kind of ringed with veins of sort of an azure silvery color. And this is a blade that marks him as a member of the nobility. Actually, Ryan, your character would have a sword like this too. It is the symbol of one that is a knight within the structure of the Empire. It is a special metal that there's only one mine within the Empire that this ore comes from. And so it gives you status carrying it. And so you've been stopping from time to time to get some food, get some provisions from some of the common folk, and because of that status, you're treated quite well, even though they don't know that you no longer carry your titles of lordship any longer. Yeah, so up ahead you can see the tree line, so you know that you've arrived, like you're in the outskirts of the Dolmenwood. These very large kind of pine trees kind of make up the tree line there. You know what we have to do? We have a couple of rolls that we need to make from the get-go, because we need to figure out what month, day, and season it is as we start the campaign. Okay. So, why don't we have... Chris, would you roll me a d12?
Well, that is a 6.
Okay. So we are in the month of Igwild, which is the month of the fading of spring. So it sounds like we are coming out of spring, moving into the summer months.
Chris, I'm blaming you. That's the worst option.
I know. Spring?
Ending of spring. It means summer. Going to the summer. The start of summer.
That's good.
We'll be chafing.
We'll be chafing. Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Isaac, why don't you roll me a 2d6?
Got it. Do you want them
Added together.
All right. 5 total.
Okay. So, yeah, it is a brisk, clear day. There's not a cloud in the sky. And so given that you've been all day kind of, using the oars to kind of make progress up the river. Having a little bit of a cool temperature is somewhat welcome, and yeah, you're starting to put yourselves. You're pulling the canoes off to the side. It's been a full day of travel, and Sir Silas suggests that no point in struggling on only to put camp directly into the forest. It may be best to camp here on the outskirts and call it a day and start fresh in the morning as you would progress into the Dolmenwood. And so a few things that we'll just take care of. I just want to kind of show you basically what the camp procedure is when you're out in the wilderness. Basically, what you need to do in order to have a full, decent rest is you need to be able to have a fire going. You would want to have something in your belly. And there are some other things that you could do to help, because basically resting is a roll to see if you had a good rest or not. So at the end of all of the activities that you do to prepare your camp, we would do a check, and you get bonuses based on some of the pieces. So one of the things that needs to happen is fetching firewood. And so any number of characters could engage in fetching firewood. Depending on weather conditions, it may be more difficult to find usable firewood. Like, for example, if it had just rained, it's going to be hard to find wood that is going to be able to sustain a fire for any number of hours. And so that is a piece that can happen. Building the fire is also dependent on the conditions of the moment. So today is a clear day. There's no inclement weather, and so starting the fire be basically automatic. But if there was bad conditions, a high wind or such, there would have to be a roll that would happen. We are going to assume on this day that you have gathered up some food from some of the farmers and such in the area. But if this had been like a fresh day, you may have been like foraging and such throughout the day. And foraging is something that you can do automatically just as you're traveling, if you're traveling through the forest. Something like fishing, you would have to use a whole day stopped in one place to do anything that would be substantial. Same thing with hunting. If you decide you want to hunt, you're going to have at least the person that wants to do the hunting kind of stays in the same hex doing that activity for the day. And you might have your other folks kind of exploring around while they're doing that and gathering the food, but that's kind of how that works. Isaac, you had asked a question in the Discord chat earlier. You can also do focused foraging, which would be slowing down your pace to increase the possibility of finding stuff. If anyone is wanting, you can also cook any of the food that you collect. And so the cook can do a wisdom check to attempt to make a meal that might give you a bonus on your sleep check. And the other piece, fetching water, is pretty much almost always going to be automatic. In Dolmenwood, it's a forest. Particularly today, you're sitting on a river, so there's like absolutely no check that really has to happen. You got water skins and such, automatically fill them up, and you've got cooking water and everything like that. The other check that can happen on a rest is what is called a camaraderie check. And so what this is this is the time that you spend around the fire telling stories, entertaining one another, and you can attempt to do a charisma check to do that, whether it's with a tale, music, song, your stand-up routine, whatever it is. That can also give you a little bit of a bonus on the sleep check. So does that kind of cover everything? Does that sort of make sense, the different pieces here? So we don't have to do the food one, but who here is going to be out fetching firewood this evening?
I would go out and fetch the firewood. It'll give me a chance to familiarize myself a little bit more with this wood, which is making me very happy right now.
If you wish assistance, I'd go with you. Unless you don't need it. So
Oh, you're welcome to come along. Shout out if you get lost.
will do.
Do we have anyone that's volunteering to maybe cook a bit this evening?
My character would, and he'll cook.
Friar Fitzpatrick will be
Mm.
manning the stove. Sir Silas will be just sort of in general kind of setting up the camp, laying out the bedrolls and getting tents set up and whatnot. You probably don't have tents necessarily packed with you, but like the bedrolls and any of the firewood that you were fetching, like getting the fire started, he'll take care of that piece. Other actions that anyone wants to take? How about Sir Geoffrey?
Some other things we had to do for camp, or we pretty much did we hit all the things? I guess it was just like food, wood. They're going to get the wood, the fire. So I think all of our camp needs are probably met. I guess Sir Geoffrey, trying to probably avoid his brother a little bit, will be in the camp, but sort of walking the perimeter. Maybe trying to set up some kind of perimeter on the camp and just kind of get the lay of the land. Breathe some fresh air after being in prison.
Okay,
For so long.
that sounds good.
Yeah, and I think Weymund, I know there's no mechanic for this, but I think Weymund would be hanging out with the Friar and just sort of like talking to him. And he's talking to him, somewhat jovially. There's no acidic sort of anti-church thing happening, but he's just kind of like talking about his time in prison. And then I think I would like to contribute to the camaraderie role of telling a campfire story when everyone gets back about the legend of the Nag Lord.
Yeah, that sounds good. And how about Thomas?
Thomas was assisting with the firewood,
Okay.
and he also will engage in the camaraderie. Maybe tell some embellished tale that his father had told about some maiden.
That sounds good. Let's start with those of you that are fetching firewood. Each of you can roll me a d6, and that's how many hours of firewood that you're able to collect. So ideally, we want to get 8 to sustain you through the evening.
2 for me.
2? Okay.
3 for me.
Okay. And let's see. Am I missing someone? Do we just have the 2 people on firewood? I thought there was a third person.
No,
Nope.
that's right.
Nope.
Two.
Okay. So you got about 5 hours of firewood. So it'll just be like this. You can kind of determine when that goes out, but presumably that'll be like in the wee hours of the morning. It'll just be like pitch black, basically, on watch, which maybe isn't a terrible thing. I don't know. But you're not in because it's not winter. Let's see. What does that mean? No fire. There is a check involved. Okay. So you bring back what you were able to find out in the wilderness. We also had Sir Geoffrey. You were sort of walking the perimeter of the camp and such. The sun is starting to set in the sense that the sky is sort of this orangish color, and it's starting to turn to kind of a dim light out. Why don't you roll me a d6 real quick?
2.
2? Okay. As you're doing that, you feel like for a second you saw on the perimeter, like there's the terrain here is relatively flat. Like you're not in the forest yet, but there is there's some hedges and some bushes and kind of isolated trees throughout. You saw some animal, like a small animal, but maybe about the size of like a rabbit or a squirrel or something, jump into that bush. And you felt like it did so because like it was like staring at you, and it reacted to you like looking at it, and it was peculiar the way that it reacted.
Yeah, I would say if I thought it was a bit peculiar, I would probably take a walk up to the bush just to take a look. You know, do the old grab a stick, poke at it. You know, if it was a behavior I wouldn't, you know, that struck me as funny, I would probably go take a peek.
Sure. You go take a look, and this particular bush that you're looking at has these tiny blue berries that are hanging off of it. And you're trying to like look, within and just see, because you didn't see the creature leave the bush. And so the thing is, like, with an animal creature like that, you would have expected it maybe to run off, climb up a tree, like try to get away from you, but it almost seems like it's hiding. And as you're looking in, you feel like you can see these eyes, like kind of spectral eyes staring out at you.
I feel the eyes, or I see
You
the
see
eyes?
them almost like almost like neon light.
Okay, yeah. So I want to say this probably startles me quite a bit. And I'm probably like kind of stepping back, and I would immediately address Sir Silas, who I would consider the leader of the camp, and say, "Hey, something's going on over here. There's these glowing eyes. I saw this weird, rabbit jump in this thing. There, I went to check it out. Glowing eyes. This is a bad omen or something."
Sir Silas looks at you with his aged eyes, and he just says, "Step away. We are very close to the Dolmenwood. There are many, many things, many mysterious things about the forest that best not to best to leave alone. We'll keep an eye on it, but my advice would be to keep our distance." And so this thing that you saw, that's probably maybe it's like 100 feet away from the camp.
Can I still see the eyes if I look over there, or the glowing?
No, it's like when you were looking into the bush, like in the darkness of the shadows created by the foliage. That's where you saw it, but like from a distance, you wouldn't be able to really see it.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I'm probably gonna tell the rest of the camp, you know, set up your bedrolls on the other side from that, wherever that was. I'm gonna sleep over there. You don't have to sleep next to me, but you might want to.
so you gather up the wood, get the fire going. The friar, in a conversation a bit with Weymund, right?
That's right.
Weymund, okay. Go ahead, Isaac. Make me a, what did I say was a wisdom check? So you want to roll under your wisdom score. A d20.
A 14.
And is that
So
under?
yes, it
Okay,
was under. I'm sorry. Yeah.
awesome.
Nice.
So you I don't know. You want to tell us, improv for us? What is the meal for this evening?
There would be bits of since we were kind of moving around, he would have picked up a few maybe slight herbs or something, things that he knew, maybe like pepper grass or something like that. So he would kind of be just grinding it up in his hand and chopping it into this dish of I guess the food that we have at the moment, they're like rations, right? And so, oh no, we're getting them from the farm, right? So maybe they might have given us like I don't know. Let's see, this is
Probably a
the
lot
question.
of kind of like potatoes and radishes and
Okay,
like
so it'll
kind of
be like
hearty vegetables that
Mhm.
a farmer could cultivate and feed his family.
So it'll be like a kind of roasted, like it'll be roasted like vegetables with like a pepper, grass on top, kind of just mixed in with maybe like a sprint of like mint that he found as well to like garnish the plate. Not bad.
That
I'm
sounds
looking at the
delicious.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the pot and just saying, Fitzpatrick, what do you think about throwing in some rabbit or some sort of
Mm,
meat, like something
well,
something
well,
heartier than veggies?
if we had that, I definitely do it. But as you can see, my friend, uh, this is what the good Lord provided, and this is what we have.
Well, let's see if maybe Geoffrey has found some additional things that the good Lord has provided. I saw him chasing a rabbit.
Weymund, I would not recommend rabbit stew today. Maybe we stick with the veggies. Um, long story. Don't mess with the animals in Dolmenwood, according to Silas over here, because yeah, just bad news.
Sir
Well,
Silas says, I would agree. We're not far from our destination. Um, hopefully tomorrow we can get a early morning start and head up the river. Before you know it, one more day and we will be in the village of Dreg. We'll all be able to get a warm bed and a full belly of whatever you like.
that reminds me of a good story that I'll tell you later tonight around the campfire.
And
These animals.
that sounds like a fair segue to maybe just jumping around said campfire as it begins to darken, keeping an eye out in the direction of that strangeness that Sir Geoffrey saw. But you're getting comfortable with your belly's full from this delectable meal that was prepared from the Friar, and you're starting to share some stories. Maybe Weymund is kind of kicking things off, but you've all heard kind of the topic of conversation a bit is things that you've heard about Dolmenwood.
I'd like to sit next, as close as I can, to the area where Ryan saw the creature. I don't know what you saw, but I'd still be around the fire, but close enough that I can actually observe while we're talking.
Why don't you give me a D6 roll?
It's a 1.
It is a 1.
Well, I've got color spray prepared, so.
So 1 is a success, typically on such rolls. So you do hear something coming from that bush, and it sounds almost like a low, very low toned sound, kind of like the purring of a cat, like a house cat. And I would say that you're hearing this in spite of the fact that Weymund is telling you a story right now, and so your ears are perceiving that, even though there's a crackling fire in front of you, people are enjoying some food, and there's some conversation happening around this fire.
I'm not going to share that yet.
Yeah, and so Waymond's going on about the story. He's just sort of saying, so, I mean, I've never been to Dolmenwood. I don't know the rest of us, but when I was a little boy, my papa told me the story about Dolmenwood, about the Nag Lord. And so the Nag Lord was this ominous being who controlled the goat folk, the goat people of the region. And they would work to pollute the plants and the animals and give them human level sentience so that they were smart or even smarter, wittier than the humans. And of course, they would entice children out at night and lure them into the woods and then eat them or convert them into strange beings. And everyone was afraid that the Nag Lord would encroach into the cities. But they say that as long as you had light lit in your window and you are a faithful, good citizen of the town, that the Nag Lord wouldn't steal your children. So obviously just a fairy tale myth, but just made me laugh thinking of Geoffrey chasing some rabbit and getting spooked by it.
Sir
I don't think it's
Santos kind of shudders, like he's just staring into the fire as you're talking about this, and he says, "The stories of the Nag Lord may be embellished, but it is a very real thing if you were to talk to any Brackenwolder. In fact, the Duke, he's standing army, if you can call it that. I hear that he is even now preparing for the idea that this Nag Lord might emerge from the wood."
Well, I apologize, Sir Silas. I don't mean to insult. You've been a good friend to me in the prison, but I mean, come on, listen to the story. It's clearly just an authoritative system to impart to the people that they should be, proper followers of the rules of the city. Otherwise, some being will steal your children and do evil things to the plants. I mean, poppycock, of course, right?
Well, the Duchy of Brackenwold is much older than the Empire. It has claimed dominion of this forest for centuries upon centuries. Something has always stayed its hand. Why has it never gone further from those pieces of territory that it's managed to carve out and civilize? I don't know. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps it is all poppycock, and it is some kind of boogeyman story passed down over the generations. All I hope is that Marjoram Gryver can be found sooner rather than later, so we can leave this place and not have to find out such truth.
One thing that you brought up, goat people. I have heard that actually in the Duchy of Brackenwold that there were these goat people that actually serve in noble status. I don't know if that is true or not, but I found that odd.
Sir Santos would comment on that and confirm that for you. He'll say he has a bit of knowledge of this region. He did a little bit, or got maybe a little bit more of a kind of briefing from the crown before heading out, and he'll say that is what my understanding is as well. The goat lords, the goat folk, live side by side with humans in the duchy, and in some case even marry and have families together. It is a bizarre thing for me to think about and grasp, but we should be careful not to insult these people as we are traveling about in the Dolmenwood. There are many cultural things in the Dolmenwood that we may not understand. From what
I know a
I
little bit.
understand about their caste system, the long-horned goat folk are those that descend from a noble line and are typically those that are those that dictate the fate of their people, and the short-horned goat folk are the common folk.
I know a little bit. Just a little bit. I've spent a little bit of time with books and pens. And the Naglord and the goat people aren't the only strange things here. So we don't have windows to put the light out. That bothers me a little bit. And the other thing that bothers me a little bit is that we're outside and there's a prince I've heard about, Cold Prince. And he has a court of elves, and they sometimes look for travelers. They like to trade things, so maybe we'll see them. That could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. And they'll trade with us. And so we can get some jewels and some silver. And all we have to do is share what we know. Since we don't know very much right now, it could be a very good exchange.
Now, what was that name you said? Of this prince?
Well, he's called the Cold Prince. He was supposedly once the ruler of the entire Dolmenwood. Seems like he and the Naglord might have a bit of a problem. And from the name, you can imagine that um, the elves are pretty cold too. So they don't feel very warm. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they actually turn things icy and cold. Elves are magical, they can do lots of things.
That is interesting. Stephen, do you remember when we were young the story that Mother would tell us when we asked about these areas so far away? And they told us of a great treasure. She told a fantastic story about a ruler out here in the Dolmenwood called the Cold Prince. That I believe the story went that he had a great treasure hidden out there in an abandoned fortress that was possibly protected by magical wards and traps, but that there are legends of this great treasure of the Cold Prince out here somewhere.
Sir DeSantos will add to kind of your stories about the Cold Prince and say there are many legends of creatures from the land of fairy in Dolmenwood. Some say that as the world's oldest forest, that this place has connections to this otherworldly realm of fairy, and that there are many lords, such as this Cold Prince, that once claimed dominion over parts of the Dolmenwood, and that their strongholds still exist. Now, I don't know that this Cold Prince, if this is a true story. There are all sorts of fictional characters, I am sure, but one thing is for sure, that since the church came to this region, hasn't been much spoken about notable creatures. It would seem that most things, if they do exist, have retreated into the wild, out of sight. But one thing is for sure, that these ruins, these fortresses that you speak of, brother, there are many places for Marjoram to hide out in. Many of them could be dangerous.
Well, what say you, Friar? Do you believe in all these fairy tales and stories?
I I would say so. Why wouldn't I? As he's kind of just like playing with the hole, like in his tooth, and his teeth. He's missing the tooth, and he's just kind of getting the food out of it, and he's just like, what? Yeah, why wouldn't I believe in these things? Just like how the people are able to believe what they want. Why would I have anything different to believe?
Well, I
I
guess
mean,
I shouldn't be shouldn't be so disappointed that a man of the cloth would believe in other fanciful things. But
I've from what I've heard, just like us here, I believe that I've heard that the Brackenwoods themselves, that well, they kind of went into a pact with said I don't know, old gods and such. They would give their souls up to rule the lands for over so many generations. But that time is coming to an end.
Well, Thomas, you've been quiet. Our minstrel. Why don't you lighten the mood a bit? Bring us out of these doldrums of fairies and lords and princes.
I think that is a fine idea. And with that, I will pull out a flute and kind of begin playing with a little bit of well, a little bit of the words right now. This is kind of a work in process, but mention one thing you guys would pick up mentioned in the song is about the the stones of Dolmenwood, but there's only one particular verse at this particular point. But the music is quite nice, and I will not utilize anything to charm anybody or anything.
Wait, what?
We're incidentally charmed.
Correct.
You are
But
quite charming.
correct. But yes, and I will inform everybody that this is a current work in progress.
Sounds lovely. Can't wait to hear it.
Would
Can
you
I ask?
like to do your camaraderie check?
Sure.
So it'd be a rolling under charisma.
I would say all these stories connecting this land to fey creatures and Silas's stories certainly give me pause after what I have seen here tonight as well. A very strange place we're entering.
Geoffrey, it was a bunny rabbit with eyes that were glowing. Why are you so spooked? It's fine.
I tell you,
I
you
I
all know me. I am not easily spooked. A little nervous from time to time, maybe, but not
Very
so.
nervous from time to time. But
however, I have to say, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just say I don't spoke easy. I'm telling you I saw something. I wish you would believe me. It was quite unnerving.
I mean, while we've been sitting here and telling these stories and enjoying the fire, I have to say, I started to wonder. I don't think I've ever found a rabbit that purrs.
You purred?
Can't you hear it?
Can I hear it?
You all like get real quiet and focus in. And no, you don't hear it anymore. It has passed.
You know what? I'll tell you this. I'm not a man of the land. I'm not a hunter, a huntress. I
Sure.
don't. I'll trust you. I'll defer to your opinion. about this purring rabbit with glowing eyes. I'll just say this: it's easy to blame, boogeymen like the Nag Lord and the Cold Prince, but sometimes they're just arcane uh, influences. There are powers in the world, and we know that Marjorie is searching for ley lines rather, and there could be much more scientific arcanist explanation. So, just saying,
Um,
it may not be as simple as a big bad guy out to get us.
he's kind of, as you're talking, he's gonna say, I don't think it ever come up why you were put in prison. Why?
Well, I experimented on rabbits to give them glowing eyes. No, well, okay, so I guess I should say, I was in prison for the crime of studying and experimenting with the arcane arts without the church's blessing. No offense, Friar. I just
It's still like fiddling. Like,
yeah,
huh?
he's like, it's like, I know that you are a man of the cloth and you worship the one true God, but I just wanted to research and very specifically, and I'll pull out my quartz, this little quartz gem. Like I'm studying a spell, trying to perfect it that harnesses the latent energies of gems, and and that was something I pursued on my own, and the church didn't approve of it, and they found out when I was buying some reagents, and I was put in jail unjustly. I'm no traitor. I just like to study, and I'll pocket the gem.
He's
How
just
about you,
smiling.
Friar?
Well, I'm not we're all presuming so much about one another, and apparently you think it bothers me what you're doing. With the church, it says that you should not be doing that. Your soul itself is forfeit if you're doing that. Correct? Do you
I
understand?
I suppose my soul, such as that I exist.
But that is not what the true God says. He is one of mercy and open-mindedness. I'm happy that you are kind of socking it to that church. It's fine. The whole establishment itself is just loony. It's ludicrous. It's there just to hold us down. We need to. In fact, that is why I was thrown in in prison in the first place. I was not paying taxes. This is for the people. The
Sounds like
tithes.
you.
Yes, it was for you, Geoffrey.
I'm gonna
I
put an
can
arm
do it.
around the friar.
You don't
No sense of
understand.
duty
No.
ever. You never follow the rules, leaving everyone behind, leaving me in control of everything. You have no idea
And you
of
did great
how
yourself.
important it is.
I was very shocked to see you there. But yes, I did. Why? Why? What are they going to do? Why are we? Wait. If I am, I mean, you. What are they going to do with the gold? It's for the people. It should be for them.
You have it right, Friar. We should talk some more. I'm open to hearing a bit more about your interpretation of the one true God.
Geoffrey, it's love. Just It's lovely to see you again.
It is always good to see you.
Mhm.
You know I'm happy to see you, but I'm still angry, as you can hear.
Mm-hmm. Why? Now that we've settled in, why? What are you doing here?
You left the weight of the noble house on my shoulders. I was never raised or prepared to run the house this way. And there's so many rules. You were so good with the books. You know all the rules. I don't understand how it works, and I get confused. I meddled in the wrong lord's affairs. I guess I found out something I shouldn't have known, and I don't know. They they had me placed in jail. I didn't say anything to the higher lord in time. I wasn't sure who actually was in charge. You know how it gets with these houses and the lineage. They did me dirty, and that is why I'm here.
Sir Silas stands, and he just kind of looks at you and he says, to uphold one's oath sometimes means sacrificing, making a great sacrifice of yourself to honor that oath, do right by your lord. I am certain I would not have brought you along on this quest if, even though we have lost our title, we still keep our oath. And I believe you are a man that your word is your bond, your honor is your life. I apologize, friends. I grow weary, I grow tired. I'm going to retire for the evening. But we should talk about the watch this evening, who will take the shifts. And so basically how this works for, we'll just use like kind of 5e rules for watches, like a watch is 2 hours.
Cool.
And so you can either have multiple people on a shift, if in this case, you know, we've got technically 6 participants. We could divide it up, have people double up, or have people just take full rests throughout the evening. One thing to note is that it is something that's different than 5e is you'll occasionally have to do a check to see if you stayed awake during your shift, which could mess up everything for everybody else. If you fall asleep on your shift, you weren't there to wake up the next person, and that kind of thing could happen. But I probably won't consistently call for that role. I'll only call for it when I feel like it's necessary.
Let's do it.
So, do you have a watch order that you'd like to set for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th?
Should we discuss this?
Yeah, you can discuss it.
I mean, let me ask this one question. Would I have been able to sort of figure out about how much firewood we had?
Yeah, you know, you probably don't have enough to get through the entire night.
Okay. Well, we probably don't have enough wood in that fire to keep it going. And I certainly don't want to be walking around in the middle of the night. But I feel like I have a lot more experience out in the woods and the woods environment. So I'll take watch when it's dark.
That makes sense to me.
Right, Lillibeth is on 4th watch, the final watch.
Geoffrey
go-
would probably
yeah.
offer to take it in their stead, just being like, I am the fighter type. If you get uncomfortable, I can cover as well.
I'll do a 2nd.
Okay.
I do not have a preference.
I get a bit sleepy after eating, so I wouldn't mind having a little nap and then waking.
Well, this sounds nice.
So do we want to do Geoffrey, Friar, Thomas, and Lillibeth?
That works.
All right. So you can continue talking, but Sir Silas ends up laying out his bedroll and such and going to sleep. I guess that begs the question. We didn't do what is your relationship to Sir Silas, and is there a story behind why he trusts or stuck his neck out for you?
Well, that could be a great topic of conversation. I have 2 questions before we dive in. Is there any leftovers? Yes.
Are there any leftovers?
I think
Woeful
so.
leftover.
You've been able to gather quite a bit of food over the past couple of days. Probably storing some up in the canoes as you haven't used it over the past 2 or 3 days. So plenty of food to go around.
Yes. Buy what
Okay,
you
so
like.
I just want enough to fill this small cup. And if you don't mind,
I'll walk over and actually grab. No, of course, no problem. He'll
thank you.
take it and he'll, while you're talking or whatever, he'll go and you can hear him clinking in the background, filling it up.
Okay.
And
Thank
really, Friar, this was delicious. I know I would have been
Second
even
that.
more with the rabbit, but
While eating meat is against. Yeah,
oh
we're not.
my
I'm just
God,
kidding. I'm just kidding.
a new tenet has been established.
Right.
Yes.
The one true God is vegan.
Well, he can't be too vegan. I mean, everything eats everything. Even the plants eat us.
4 days a week vegan. The weekends are his free day.
So,
So yeah, Lillibeth, why don't you tell us a bit about your connection to Sir Silas?
well, it's an odd connection actually because as we're in prison and we were in prison, we don't really get a chance to see each other very much. But I think um, he noticed something. So he came and he had a small conversation with me. Um, and one, he noticed, of course, that I'm vastly outnumbered in terms of my gender. And so he was concerned. I found that to be very touching because, frankly, I probably could have done more harm to most of the people around me than he could. But it was a lovely, kind gesture, and I don't really encounter those very much. So we sat down and we talked about why we were respectively in the prison, and I don't know why he trusts me, other than the fact that I was so incensed that they would debar him for actually keeping an oath, which seems horrible. Something's going on. I can tell because, I mean, why would anybody bother to really pursue what seems to be a really common activity of tax avoidance? I mean, look at how many of us are here for tax avoidance. And I wasn't even avoiding taxes. Somebody just used some old bills of lading that I filled out in advance in my old job and put them on casks of beautiful, beautiful purple Athena wine and said that it was swill. So no excise tax on those barrels. Probably somebody made a small fortune, but I certainly didn't do it. So anyway, that's that.
It sounds like you've had maybe some personal conversations with Silas about how did he end up in prison himself.
Mhm.
And so I'll just say that in those conversations, you know that the crime that he is accused of is murder. Like he was accused of murdering the Lord that he was pledged to serve. And
Can you share that with us, Lillibeth? Do we all know that, or just Lillibeth?
I guess it'll depend on like what you tell me about like what's your connection to him. But in this case, it sounds like Lillibeth has had those conversations, and so I don't think you know the full details. Like it doesn't feel right that he would have done that, and he still speaks very highly of his house. Your intuition tells you that he knows who actually did it, but there's something about like his oath that's he thinks it's maybe damaging if he were to reveal that. So he's taking that he's taking the cover for somebody maybe.
Yes. Which is noble, not always wise.
Well, Thomas, you've been quiet since your song, which, by the way, was quite lovely. But I can't believe you've brought a flute out on this journey, but it's beautiful. But how do you know Sir Silas? What's your connection? Why would he bring someone like you along?
Well, when we were in, I was accused, rightly so, was being looked for procuring some forbidden knowledge, according to the church. That had to do with my song that I am currently writing. These stones of Dolmenwood, particular significance. I had come across a bit of information and was able to procure it. Word had gotten out that I had this, and actually, I was on the run for about 6 months from the law until I kind of turned myself in. And I pull out this little poster and slap it out, and I say, until I started using my own name, nobody knew who I was. Look at the picture on here. Do you see any likeness between this and myself?
It
No.
looks great. Oh, I mean,
It looks great. It made me very hard to find. They put these up everywhere, but this is
So-
abhorrent.
When you turn yourself in, do they give you the reward for the bounty?
Was my question. No, they did not. They put me in
Huh?
leg irons.
Why did you
Wha-
turn yourself in?
I was tired of thinking that people were chasing me, but it turns out that, quite honestly, that they weren't. But my father said, should always be honest, and I just decided I would, rather than live life on the lam, I would be done with this. I honestly didn't think that I was going to be getting the punishment that I got. But anyways, Sir Silas, more or less, he'd shown, he'd kind of become a bit solemn in prison, and he found that my stories and my singing brought him a little bit of joy and solace in a place of solemnness. And also, one of the things he asked me to do in, I guess, payment for getting him out, other than taking part in this, is to write the story of this. So be forewarned, your names will not be changed to protect the guilty. So your names will go down in history.
We're guilty?
Well, or innocent, whatever. I will not change your name.
Oh, cheers to
Unless
that.
you,
Okay.
but
So
it will be accurate.
It
That
sounds
I can
like
assure
there
you.
is honor even amongst minstrels with you, doing the right thing and turning yourself in. So I am sure you will give our names honor.
Yeah, I hope so. I do find myself to be a very bad liar. I will say that. So
He did say accurate, so I guess it's up to us
Mm.
how much honor this story does.
that is true.
to me, it sounds like a secondary piece to maybe why Sir Silas would have brought you with is you do have an interest in Dolmenwood and maybe have some incidental, like partial knowledge of things. And so those stones that you speak of, I'm going to say that you know that those stones are what give Dolmenwood its name. Those are the dolmens, those stones that you're looking at. And they are associated with a group of people, a group of men, I guess, called the Droon, who are sort of sorceress or sorcerer like boogeymen of the Dolmenwood, and that they are somehow associated with those stones and claim them as their own, and claim them as a source of power for them.
I
But-
will let everybody know that information. I didn't want to take too much license with what I did or didn't know. So
Yeah, and I think you've never met or heard of anyone actually meeting a Druun, but they're kind of like with the Cold Prince. It's almost like a legend.
Well, it's good to know.
and I'm fairly handy with a sword. Actually, my father was a tailor, and his father before him, and actually I had worked as such myself. So if you need any of your socks darned or anything, uh, wash them first, but I will help you out.
It's a very, very important skill if we're going to be walking through a woods.
That's true. Well, now that we have our story straight, maybe it's time for a nice night of rest.
I agree. I'm gonna get up and go over, again, sort of like set up my roll over closer to that bush and put out a little bowl
All
of
right.
leftovers.
Mm.
Oh.
And draw in the demons.
The demon rabbits.
Yeah.
Demon, the
Go drink
demon
this
rabbit that
water.
purrs.
Like the rabbit from the End of Doom, like comes in. It's like blood coming out.
All right. So it is 1:07. My question is, does anybody have to go right now, or do you want to play through this night?
I can play through the night.
Play through the night.
Okay.
I've had 3 beers. I'm done for the day.
There's no
Nap
work that's
time.
happening now. Cool. Do you all have bedrolls of some kind?
I did not roll that,
I-
sir.
I did not roll a bedroll, so
I
whatever I'm
thought it
sleeping
said
on.
on the equipment that was one of the things that you just had with you.
I think you're right. Let's double check that. So it's in the player's guide. There were certain things that you got by default.
Backpack,
Backpack, tinderbox,
water
No,
skin.
it was not a bedroll.
Oh, okay.
torches,
Backpack, tinderbox, torches,
rations, and water skin. Yep.
So some of you are truly roughing it.
I am
Mhm.
roughing it.
Okay. We will resolve the rest roll at the end of the night. See how it
Okay.
was. But
Did we-
roll. What? Go ahead.
My mace will be sufficient enough pillow for me, thank you.
So the charisma roll, did we do that?
Yes, Chris had done that, and it was a success. So it'll be a +1 on any rest rolls that happen. And so, anything else before you go to sleep and enter into your watch order?
I'll definitely do my night's prayer. I'd go over to Sir Geoffrey and say, Sir Geoffrey, do you still? It's been quite a bit, and I really am happy to see you again, brother.
It is.
Do-
I'll embrace him and be like,
Uh-huh.
you know, I love you.
Mhm. Are you still sleeping with Binky?
Oh, let's not speak of these things, my brother. But maybe it's possible.
That's a strong yes.
You can see
Hey.
like a blanket under my
Uh-huh.
chainmail.
Good night, Binky. Good night.
So does the Friar? So just to insert some cleric church lore. So it is
Mhm.
a monotheistic religion, but
Yes.
the faithful of the one true God often have a allegiance to one particular saint. There are hundreds of saints within the religion, and that is sort of where the I guess polytheistic part of it comes from, is that people are usually attached to the parable of one of these saints and what they represented and their kind of mission in life. And so my question is, does a friar have a particular saint that they follow, or a set of saints that they follow?
I mean, I think what I said he would do is he has like a number of prayer cards, and he'd kind of he doesn't want to tie himself down to one, because how fair would that be to just, pray to this one? So he kind of, it's like a deck of cards, he'll and just pick one, and then that's who he's praying to for the night. So
I like the guy on the mummy that pulls out all those different holy symbols.
That sounds
so
good.
should I don't know, should I?
You want to roll a D100 and pick a saint for the night? Yeah, you could.
Dude,
Okay.
that's a perfect mechanic. I love that.
Yeah.
And it fits the character already.
Do you? I know that we talked about maybe having a list. Do you have like a list?
I have
like
a list.
table?
Yeah.
Okay. So a 67.
Let's see if I have it in table form. I think I do.
If I ever convert Catholicism, that's how I'm going to do it.
It works out. Not bad.
Like, hey, it's Mary. Fantastic.
Oh,
no,
I'm not finding the table, but we'll say...
You could just tell me.
We'll say that you picked out Saint Weylund of the Sack.
Mm.
Oh, that's a good one.
The miracle of Saint Weylund. He was accused of treason and tax evasion.
No kidding. No kidding.
Weylund was a vicar of low repute and was due to be executed by beheading. The executioner, however, was unable, for some reason, to bring the axe down upon the saint's neck, his limbs freezing at the apex of every strike. After this sub-execution, the assistant executioner experienced the same anomaly, and no one was able to bring the axe down on his neck, and he was thus pardoned.
What a great saint to pick.
Great. Definitely. And I'll even bring Lillibeth in and say, well, listen, I'm not sure how much you partake in such beliefs, but that there is definitely someone looking out for you. I mean, and myself. I mean, what that we potentially could have been killed in that prison, but we're here. The axes missed us. The system has stopped. Something is protecting us.
I don't know if I believe all of this, but you do, and it's uncanny. It is uncanny.
Uh-huh. And I'm just gonna say, and he's gonna just hand it over to you. Maybe just hold on to the card.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And
bookmark. It's a good bookmark. If I use them as bookmarks too, no problem. Don't think if you lose it, it's fine. I have like 3 more. Don't worry.
But thank you. I rarely get a chance to interact with people except for obviously in prison and with you, so I don't have very many gifts, and this one is interesting. So thank you. And I stick it in my book of recipes for stewed rabbit.
Awesome. So, many of you, after all this, you're all taking to your rounds of sleep, and we're starting things off here. The first watch going to Sir Geoffrey. And so, Sir Geoffrey, what is your Constitution score?
It is 15.
Okay. So roll me a d20. Don't roll a 1.
A 19.
Okay. So during your watch, you just a little bit mesmerized maybe by the water, the river. And one thing I'll say, I guess this is just a general comment. It's not really about your watch, but you have noticed as you were traveling up the river that at times there are log jammers that seem like they live along the river, and their goal, like especially where there are bends in that river, they would go out and make sure that the lumber just flows. Like it seems like it's coming from north, comes down south, and there's a number of folk along the river, must be people that are paid by the Empire to ensure that that wood makes its way where it needs to go. And so you're probably watching the river and noticing some logs and such drifting down. It is kind of prime season for that. The springtime, they can't really do any of that work during the winter, but yeah, during the spring and winter, lots of that type of activity happening on the river. It's a very wide river. It's probably like a mile wide. It's calm, quiet. Moon is full moon out tonight, and is creating enough light that you're not in complete darkness as the fire is crackling. Your attention continues to be brought over to where that bush is, but you don't see or hear any further disturbance. A couple of hours pass, and it is time for you to wake your brother up.
Snoring.
Time to get up. Had your nap,
Oh.
and now it's time to get up and do your duty, brother.
Oh. Okay. Oh. Okay, he's gonna just he'll wake up kind of groggy. Sure. He just brings out he holds a mace as well. And he'll kind of have it just kind of at his hip on his side as he just begins to kind of survey quietly. Just
So at the point that you're rising, and Sir Geoffrey, you have a bedroll, Sir Geoffrey? Okay. You're just like trying to find like a comfortable patch to maybe like clump together some of your clothes or random gear to like give yourself a little support or whatever. And in those moments where Sir Geoffrey, you're probably not quite asleep, but probably drifting to sleep, and Friar Fitzpatrick, you are awaking and checking out the camp, just looking around. You are startled, Friar, as you see around the campfire, there's a small creature with sort of a feline features. It's sitting, and it's got the bowl that was laid out for it near the bush in its hands, and it's like kind of scooping up with its claws, shoveling food into its face. The creature has a very large head. It almost seems like its body shouldn't be able to support it. It's almost like kind of cartoonish, this cat-like creature. It just like has really big eyes, kind of like an Animal Crossing character. like it's just like perpetually surprised, and it's looking at you like it's shocked.
and I'm pretty shocked too.
It's
Damn it.
Am I kind of aware of this, or am I like half asleep?
You're like half asleep at this point.
Okay.
Oh. He'll go and kind of maybe just really quickly. He's gonna look. Can he tell if it just looks like he's eating, right?
It's eating, and it's like looking at you.
And you said he's surprised that I'm kind of just looking at. I'm just like, that's my eyes back at him. I'm just like, ah.
And she starts talking to you, kind of like this purring type of speech. And she, brown tabby fur, wearing a cape, has a little cape tied around its neck. And she just says, "Hey, nice grub. But do you got any meats? Maybe a rabbit or something? Should have listened to that guy."
He's rubbing his eyes and going, you're talking. Yeah.
"Oh, I'm sorry, I'm being rude. Name's Jaspy Poppletail. Nice to meet ya."
Oh, yes. Geoffrey. Geoffrey. It's nice. It's very nice to meet you. I'm Fry. Who? What? And he's still
Gaspy
like, just like,
Poppletail.
like I know those. I thought that was just. I knew it was just pepper grass. I'm sure of it. This is odd, right? Like this isn't.
Yeah, you've never
Okay,
seen anything like this before.
All right, good, because
Now, did maybe him calling for me wake me
Yeah.
up a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of like get up. I'll see the guy, and I'll probably like immediately run to Silas, just out of like he's the main man here, so he should be aware of this type of thing out of duty, and I'll kind of wake him, and maybe I'm fussing around looking for my weapon now in my skeevies to be
Okay.
like, oh yeah, we we got this guy here. We don't know what this is.
Sounds good. I need to make a roll real quick.
And I'm probably being loud.
Yeah, you can see like this creature is like, what's he doing? And you're waking up Sir Silas. Sir Silas is what? And you can see he kind of goes for his sword is in its scabbard like nearby, and he goes to reach for it. And this creature, like throws the bowl kind of at you, and like gets up and transforms into like a house cat and starts to like kind of leap away and scurries away from the.
Am I still sleeping?
You're still sleeping. Pretty much everyone is
So
still sleeping except for the Friar and Geoffrey, and Sir Silas is starting to rouse right now.
the bull probably would have, like, if he threw it at me, the bull, it probably would have hit me, dung, and I wouldn't have moved. I'm still like, oh.
I'll probably just be like, does my eyes deceive me, brother? What did you
No,
feed us tonight?
I do not know. The food was good, but not that good. I
No, when I see the house
but
cat,
I believe you.
does it does it like look reminiscent of the animal that I saw earlier?
Yes, it's about the same size. You didn't really get like a clear idea, like you didn't clearly see the creature earlier, but now like seeing this weirdness, like you're
Like that's it.
yeah, you're pretty convinced that it was the same thing.
I do believe that is the same creature I saw earlier.
it liked my food. I guess that's not too bad.
I mean, I don't know if I should have startled him now. We may have been able to ask some questions about the whereabouts of Majoram, but it certainly gave me a fright.
I do
quite
not blame you.
bizarre.
I was in shock myself. Is Sir Silas? He's awake.
He's awake and he's just standing over by his bedroll, and he looks like he's wearing an expression on his face that just looks like he's working up the courage maybe to say something, but he's not sure what to say.
Should we wake the others?
We have
I
a problem.
think so.
Problem.
The bag with our coin is gone.
We should wake the others?
Well, it bears a discussion.
Which way did it go?
And you're looking towards the tree line of the Dolmenwood. The direction that it went.
I think that it would be great to maybe wake up, maybe little Beth. I don't know why all of a sudden it was so difficult for me to say that. Lillibeth.
Yeah, I think we're gonna
Oh.
wake. Joffrey will probably go about just waking everyone up and just
Oh
being like,
my.
"There's been an encounter. Something has happened.
Oh,
No
what
problems.
happened?
We have it under control.
That was.
However,
It
we
was
Then
might."
why are
real.
we
That,
waking up?
we're just walking. It was real. That little cat. It spoke to me.
The
Mommy,
cat.
I don't want to go to school. I have some more rabbit stew.
What? The cat spoke to you?
Yes.
Gave me an awful fright, and I believe possibly we gave it an awful fright as well.
You threw a weapon on a talking cat?
Well, at first it hissed at us, and then it ran away. But
You didn't see the pouch in its mouth or anything.
I know
I
I did not know that monies was missing until Sir Silas told us so. Though he did have a mischievous look about him, for sure. Very big, huge eyes, just gigantic.
Oh,
I
well,
have to ask the question.
okay.
Joffrey, you're out in the woods. Did you see any delicious-looking mushrooms?
I
Did you-
asked. Now listen. Knowing my brother's lack of, duty and all that, I wouldn't be surprised if he was trying to have us have a nice time.
I don't
I-
ask. I do not lace anyone else's food anymore. I did it once to you. It was a prank. Do not.
At this point, Lillibeth just sort of like sets her leather armor back in sort of play, and I would like to try and find, so I'm tracking, but try to find this creature. And I'm going to, well, maybe not stomp, but walk purposefully over to, do we have any more leftovers or are they all gone now?
I think they'd be gone at this point. You all kind of maybe overate a bit, and then you left some out for the guest, whether you liked it or not. The guest that you had. So I think all the food is gone at this point.
Well, I guess the only thing I can do is walk out and perhaps offer an apology. We've been talking about Fae things all evening. So I hope the next time we encounter one, we don't try to cut off its head in the middle of a conversation.
I mean, it was in the middle of our camp, in the middle of the night. It did take our money. Let's not forget that this beast, be it fey or otherwise, is clearly without honor.
We also
Well.
can't give up the possibility that there was more than one of them here. If you were engaged with it, perhaps it was a decoy or distraction.
That is true.
It was quite distracting.
Well, either way, we're going to have a big problem. There's going to be likely tolls and taxes, and we have to pay for lodging once we get into the Dolmenwood. I mean, I suppose maybe we can hawk these canoes, but that's not going to give us much to sustain us.
It sounds to me like we are now left with no choice but to hunt down this wretched thief and take our money back.
What was
So
the
can-
name of this critter? I'm sorry. I
Go
apologize.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Jespy Poppletail.
That's what I have written down. So, but obviously I didn't hear this, and I don't know if it's been shared.
I would
Well-
definitely. He told me his name was Jaspy Poppletail. Apparent.
And you're showing was a cat wearing a cape and not like some child.
No, it was a
Furry
cape.
child.
I know what I saw. It's quite
It looked actually very nice. I wish I got to know him a bit better. But
Maybe the
Has
tails are
anybody heard
true.
of such a creature?
Well, I mean, the myth of the Nag Lord is that he would make creatures sentient to take over the Dolmenwood, but it was just a story.
And this definitely seemed like it was something else that turned into a cat, right? It was like a kind of more humanoid looking.
Yeah, it was basically a like Cheshire cat, creature, and then it transformed, wild shaped, if you will, into a house cat.
I would definitely, eventually tell all the details about what.
Well, I'd like to track to try and track, not hunt, but track at least.
All right.
And
Got a 50% chance, so I'm going to roll this real quick.
Ooh.
And yes, so you head out kind of in the direction that they tell you that they saw it dart, which will confirm for you that it would appear you find two such sets of tracks that seem to be feline, like
a pair.
hair.
Do I catch them?
Well, do you want to, in the middle of the night, go into the Dolmenwood?
No,
No
but
rest?
no.
No. They
no,
are
but-
certainly, after all this, inside the forest somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can see where their tracks are and where they've come to our camp, right? You see, I have something. It's a trinket. I really don't want to give it up. And I have a pen and paper. So I'm going to go ahead and write, apologies, you surprised us. We would greatly appreciate having our money back. And I'm going to go ahead and put my trinket around the message. Really don't want to give it up. It's one of my favorite things. It's an amulet. It tells me the phase of the moon. But I leave it there at the end of where I leave it next to the tracks and hope that perhaps they'll come back. I've learned a long time ago that you catch many more things that you're hunting by not hunting.
Lillibeth, do you think that these talking cats not only speak but also read common?
I have no idea if they speak common. Perhaps they do. We have goat people who can marry humans, apparently, and this is well known. So it's difficult to know what's possible. And I'm trying very hard not to say Sir Silas because I know you don't like it.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Is Silas still a sir? Is Geoffrey still a sir?
No. If they were to
But
return
Silas,
back to their noble families, they would not be addressed as such. So stripped of title and land.
so I've done what I could, and I think I owe you all an apology. I was just curious. I didn't think to tell you what I was doing. And it might not have been so shocking if you'd at least known I was trying to get it to come closer. So I won't play that trick again.
So I think, unless you're telling me, like, are we in agreement that it would be a bad idea to go into the forest right now to track this thing
Oh,
down?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So probably
I think yeah, my character would suggest that we get our night's sleep and then head out after the tracks in the morning.
okay. So we will do some con checks for some of you. Who did not have a bedroll?
I did not.
Okay, so maybe everybody. So
All of us.
what you'll do is you'll make a con check. You want to roll under your con, but you'll get a bonus based on some of the things you did. So camaraderie worked. We're gonna say that the fire worked for this first night, so that'll be a plus. And
So -2, right?
yeah, correct. Yeah, that going the other ways. And then the food was a success. So you subtract 3 off of your roll.
Okay. I passed.
Me too.
That was close.
That's
It
9.
was really close.
We subtract 3 from our roll.
Subtract 3.
Mhm.
Yep.
I rolled a 5, so
So you
that's
should
a
be
2.
good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So it sounds like everyone was good. You're kind of used to roughing it at this point and getting comfortable with that. So the question that I think we're going to leave this session with is, are you going to track? You have a lead. We'll continue to use that, at least for 1 hex. You've got a successful track that you could follow these tracks of these creatures, or you want to continue by canoe and continue forward.
We need money. I think we should
I
at
agree.
least chase them. See.
I agree.
Yeah. We'll have no toll money to get further down the river.
And we
Since
don't necessarily need to kill the things. We just need to get the money back.
my question to Silas is, how much was in it? If it was 2 or 10, may not be worth it, but if it was significant,
It's significant.
I had 40.
Yeah, how much? Let's see. I have a tally here. Let's see. So he himself had 90 gold he was carrying. Winston had 40 gold. Isaac had 11 gold left over. How much, Chris, did your character have?
17.
17. Ryan?
Geoffrey only had 7.
7. And Moreen?
Had an even 10.
10. So it's well over 100, about 150, 60, almost 170 gold.
Worth to go hunt down a kitty.
I was saving up for a gem. I was so close.
Well, maybe we'll go and it is like into the wood, right? Like that's
Yeah.
And over the forest and into the stream and over the whatever.
Well, I mean, at the very least, we could, I would love to see this creature. It would help me to believe all my compatriots that they weren't hallucinating, which I think would be good for our cohesion as a team. But also, I mean, getting the gold back would be nice. But if it leads us into a creepy cave or something, we can always just leave.
Cool.
very good.
I would definitely suggest that we hide our canoes as best we can so we don't go try and find our gold and not find it and come back and our canoes are stolen as well. That would be real bad.
That would be real bad. I agree.
They're definitely easy enough for you to pull up and kind of portage over to the tree line and maybe even hide it just within the forest, so they're not just sitting out here that anybody traversing the river might see them. So no problem. But yeah, I think our next session will pick up with the beginning of the day, heading in, trying to track this Grimalkin creature, try to get your gold back. So
Do we know about these Grimalkin, or is this something that's kind of brand new to us?
I think I'm going to say that you brand new, you haven't heard of this particular thing, based on the rumors that we rolled up.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
Yep.
Well, that was a little bit of gameplay, so you can kind of get a feel of, like there's a lot of these kind of processes that kind of facilitate like the survival aspect, but then that grim like that encounter, that was a random encounter. That was something that was rolled off of a table, so that's pretty much how most of this stuff is going to be. And then I rolled like it's kind of disposition to the party, like kind of what is it up to. So Most of this is just it's random kind
That's
of, and we're gonna
awesome.
string
Oh,
the
that's so
whole thing
awesome.
together.
I was
Terrific.
loving. I was, like I said, I was loving like the slow burn of everything.
Yeah,
It's I like the pace. Yeah, it's very
Yep.
nice.
very comfy Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed,
Mhm.
indeed.
So I guess this will bring us. I didn't forget. We'll maybe wrap everything up with a round of gratitude. So I'll just say, kind of leave it open, like anybody that wants to like kind of start things off and say, something to one of the other players or just in general to the group about something that made it a good session for you, something that was positive that you appreciated.
Yeah, well, I'll jump out. And I'll be lame and just say generally, I think everybody is really into it, and your characters and your background and your connection and like vibe is just really infectious. I'm excited about how this is going to go. So just kudos to everybody on the team. And that's not, that's cheap, but throwing
Why?
it out
I,
there.
I I'm gonna follow it up with some more cheap because that was exactly what I was gonna say. I think everybody. I think we, with it being early and I guess maybe not everything fleshed out with our characters. I think everybody did a really good job of kind of hopping in there and making it flow. And appreciation to Alex for getting this set up. I'm very very excited on what this will bring. So thank you, everyone.
Yes. I think what I really appreciated about this is um, there was a lot of discussion that happened before the game, and I did not get a chance to be part of that. And yet it was possible for me, and I really didn't, like all the backstory things that actually sort of weirdly came together was pretty interesting. It does feel sort of uncanny. So um, so I appreciate that very, very much. And I also appreciate that I really am getting a chance to work collaboratively with a group of people. The collaboration is evident right from the beginning. So thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would say I'm gonna call out Winston on the apprehension your character has to what everything is going on, kind of not believing everybody. That is something that I didn't see coming like into play, and it's adding like an interesting dynamic, and it's part of that like kind of jamming thing I was talking about. We kind of jammed on this, and this is where we ended up. And in that collaboration, I find it just cool that we kind of ended up in this place in the story and with our characters in that. And I think that was cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it was perfect how you saw the critters, and then you had your brother. And
Not
I'll
believe
give
you.
the kudos too to like to Ryan and Isaac having the brother, sort of like just for anyone watching, like that was completely emergent because they just accidentally picked last names that were almost the same. So they were like, "What if we're brothers?" And like the fact that y'all just sort of played it out like that was the plan all along, that was really good. So I enjoyed
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
y'all seeing the cat like together, like it was a good like bonding connection.
Yeah.
Especially because they definitely didn't believe him before.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was the one like, I think, yeah, I'm thankful for. Well, I mean, it's already said that I'm thankful for what we have here because I think it's gonna be great. I actually I liked you rolling with the little binky thing. I figured a big brother kind of hazing his little brother a bit, and
Oh
I
yeah.
I was happy that you and were like, yeah, still got it. I enjoyed that. That was nice.
I think my kudos goes to Chris and Moreen for jumping in so late on the whole thing. Um, we kind of did a little last second shift to bring some people in to have a full group, and I appreciate that the two of you are willing to kind of last second come in after. Yeah, kind of Moreen, you said it a little bit that we did have a lot of discussion amongst ourselves, and then it could feel a little alienating maybe like coming in after the fact, but I think the two of you brought in really cool characters, and just generally to all of you, I gave each of you a rumor to incorporate, and it was felt very organic the way you were having that conversation and pulling that in. So I guess just thanks to all of you for kind of fully embracing the setting and making it already kind of feel real. Like we talked a little bit about tone, and it's like it's kind of hitting that for me. So that's awesome.
Cool. That was a question I had. If we had the right tone down, I feel good about it for sure. But
Well, and I like that Chris doesn't know that much about this, so I'm gonna kind of experience. I'm going to experience Dolmenwood through Thomas, and I think I'm gonna kind of. I mean, I'm not gonna read too much into the Dolmenwood book, other than maybe the very introduction part or whatever. So
yeah,
I'll
you're
just.
like, what the fuck is this cat person? Like, why?
Well, yeah.
A cat with a cape is running around.
Cat with a cape. Yes.
That's fantastic. Get that pure reaction.
Your highway robbers come in a different flavor here.
At that point, I was like, I don't even know how Isaac would react to this.
I know how Chris would react to it. I would run as fast as I could in the opposite direction. So.
Oh. Yeah, no, I will say that for Lillibeth, the whole setting out the bowl and everything else, I had no idea what we were going to catch. I was just curious. And so when we come into game next time, I'll tell you why. But it was it was something I would have done no matter what, and I am really thrilled that it turned out to be something so cool.
Hey, drew all the cats.
Well, unfortunately, you rolled up a hunter, so you have the you were able to track that fairly successfully, and it's not completely lost, right? Like you have a way of maybe like recovering from this. So yeah, in case it wasn't clear, I did do a roll that there was a roll that happened when Isaac's character, the Friar, was initially coming to the watch and like initially looking at the thing. There was a roll that you potentially would have seen the other one. But so that's another thing that's different is there's a lot of secret rolls that are happening. So you all maybe don't realize that the rolls are happening. They kind of blur that line a bit. So
I personally very much like in the game, you secret rolls happen and you describe what happens, and that's all we go off of.
It'll be great to if this happens again, like somehow this happens again, and it's like something totally different that like happens we're expecting,
Well, I think that brings us to the conclusion. Thanks for hanging out a little bit later than I had scheduled, just so we could do both the session 0 and get a tiny bit of gameplay in. We're coming back here next weekend already. Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Central is when Dolmenwood will be streamed live on twitch.tv/20 Sides to Every Story. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for watching the replay. We'll have, I guess, we'll throw our Discord link here in the Twitch chat if you want to come and join us there. And we've got a channel dedicated to Dolmenwood. You can come hang out with us, talk about that, talk about any of the other D&D tabletop things we have going on. And quick plug for the community campaign. We talked about it, referenced it a little bit during the session 0, but we do have this campaign. It's a 5e campaign that is open really to anybody who wants that thinks we're cool enough to hang out with them, and you want to play a D&D game with us. We have that open. It's just jump into our Discord server and let us know that you're interested, and we'll show you how to sign up and create a character and get involved at that. So if you really appreciate what we're doing, you can always support our Patreon. I'll throw that link in the Twitch chat. It'll also be in the description of the video, but that is, if you really like what we're all doing, the DMs of the channel, that helps to support our community campaign and the content that the DMs are creating and putting together. So I think that's it. I guess as we're closing out here, I should take a look. I don't usually stream Saturday morning, so I have no idea who is streaming that we might be able to raid. We will throw a raid over to Salty Sweet Games. See what they're up to this evening, this morning, afternoon, whatever time it is. Thanks,
the time.
everybody. We'll see you all
you.
soon.
See you.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Oh, they don't allow. I'm not an in-network raider.
Oh.
Oh,
what?
well, I think
Wow.
Probo is on.
We'll go to proficiency bonus.
I don't know what they're doing
Oh.
over there, but
It says we are rating proficiency bonus.
cool.